Good evening, everybody. We are back to. I wonder if I'm doing the millennial pause as a result of this. The way that I usually do a stream is I'll hit the start streaming button, but I wait till I actually see the signal that there's a number not zero on the upload, but I don't actually know when the stream goes live. Anyways, I'm pretty sure it would take a very dedicated follower to be there to hear it. So, anyways, I hope you are all well. Um, it's Warhammer 40k time, so we're going to do some more Rogue Trader. I am conscious of the fact that I was really, really chatty last time, which was slightly ironic given that the stream title mentioned how much dialogue there is in the game. As I kind of mentioned before, it's going to be a really tough time at work between now and September. I'm trying not to let that overwhelm me on the streaming front, while also being realistic about how it is probably going to creep in. Definitely last stream was a reflection of that. Sometimes I don't know, like I don't think you all need to suffer through it just because I'm going through a hard time, but being able to, just chat or get it, just kind of get it out, be able to do something normal is helpful. But, I also, like Twitch chat isn't therapy, right? And there's a lot of streamers that sort of talk about the idea, I'm not a trained therapist, don't bring your drama in here. And I mean, I think that's a generally okay rule. Like, I think the internet's a very large place and not everybody kind of understands maybe what's appropriate for a chat or not. But I'm not going to lie, like, at least for me, I mean, maybe I'm a basket case and like everybody else can figure this out, but not everything needs to be on the screen either, right? Like, I definitely get very impatient with stuff like backseating. It'd be nice if I didn't. If stuff's bugging me about work, like, chat doesn't necessarily need to hear that. On the other hand, I also think like a complete separation from the personality isn't necessarily what people are looking for either. So it's a messy space. It's not always something that I definitely, for me, I don't think I navigate it particularly well. But the biggest one is definitely stuff that happens in the real world's gonna affect me. I try as much as I can not to let it ruin the stream, and I don't always succeed. And at a minimum, I think it's best to just acknowledge it directly, and then as a second best, right, you kind of hope that you hope that you have some way of being able to transform it into something useful, right? Because I think if you really think about it, right, like there is at least some value to people saying, yeah, you know what, yeah, I felt that, like I'm not the only one alone, or just kind of knowing, hey, times are tough and I appreciate you all hanging out with me. Like, I don't need to make it a big, oh, we're all a family and you mean so much to me and I would die if it wasn't for the Twitch. I find that stuff kind of emotionally manipulative, even if that wasn't intended. But yeah, it's just, I kind of want to acknowledge where I feel like the stream could have been better. I definitely feel on Monday, as much as I enjoyed covering some of the topics with people, I definitely spent more time talking about things that weren't Rogue Trader than I would have chosen at the beginning of the stream, let's say. And I'll do my best to try and come up with maybe a little bit of a better balance. There are two things I need to get. One is my tablet, and then I think I mislaid my pen, so I'll be back in just a second. I was actually going to complain about one thing today, but this is more just kind of a it's slightly ironic that I have to deal with this, but I'll be back in. Okay, and got my pen. Just taking a minute here. I thought I filled it with ink this morning, but when I actually got to my desk, it wasn't full. So that was tragedy, because my fingers were ink stained going in. I read a really interesting. So sorry, this will just be sort of the preliminary stuff that hopefully people will find interesting. I've been enjoying Neil Stephenson's Substack. I'm actually happy he does one, because he had a sort of a note that he wrote called "Why I'm a Bad Correspondent," and if you read that note, you could see why perhaps you wouldn't expect him to be on a platform like Substack, but I think he's put some really interesting stuff on it. I mean, I like him as a writer, so I'm biased already, but I think he, like, not only does he just have interesting ideas, I think his, like, essays, there's his published essays, so like he did an old school Wired I guess article. I mean, the length of that article, that must have been the entire magazine. I should actually look that up. I'm sure there's like a photo of it somewhere. But it's this really cool article called Mother Earth, Motherboard. And it's about the laying of what was at the time the longest undersea cable, known as the Flag. And it really shaped my idea of what the what the telecom business is. So like the people who put down something like Flag, it's kind of amazing if you consider the fact that they handle so many different competing jurisdictions, some of which are, let's not beat around the bush, corrupt as hell. Just any country that it touches, you are going to need to be able to handle its particulars and its regulatory environment and such. And then, of course, you actually have to do the building of it, which is not, that's not trivial itself. You also need to do so in a cost-effective way, right? Like, it's all well and good. People are not laying these things out of the goodness of their heart. I think since its origin, out of that article, I got a recommendation for Arthur C. Clarke's book, How the World Was Won, O-N-E in the title. And it's about the laying of the undersea cable. Fascinating. I mean, I don't think it's controversial to say that Arthur C. Clarke is a good writer, but specifically the I've not read his nonfiction before. I thought that was a really interesting book. Amusingly, the copy I have is from the UK, and I actually took the book with me to the UK the first time I visited. So it's just it's one of the least effective ways of transporting dead trees, but what are you going to do, right? So, Stevenson he does very good nonfiction stuff. He's obviously best known for his fiction, the guy who coined the term the metaverse. Cryptonomicon's great. I really like the Baroque Cycle. I've actually only read up to Anathem. I'm really looking forward to doing Seven Eves and Ream D, Fall or Dodge in Hell. His most recent one, his most recent published one, Polistan, seems like something I'd be interested in, and the next one, D, Heavy Water, is the next. It's the follow-up to it, so I'm quite eager to see all of those. Sorry, I'm also omitting a few of the titles, but I'm pretty sure you all know Stevenson. And even then, like I remember enjoying the Diamond Age or Young Ladies Illustrated Primer, but this is probably unfair to the Diamond Age, but I'll compare it to the Black Mirror episode, the Waldo Moment. So I've only ever seen Black Mirror as a Channel 4 series. I haven't seen the Netflix episodes. And the Waldo Moment's kind of funny in the sense that, like, I like the satire of Black Mirror. I think it's a good show. I like anthology shows like that. And there's also just so few of them. You gotta appreciate what you can find. But But the Waldo moment was one that didn't really sit well with me. It kind of felt maybe like a little too on the nose. I just really didn't feel that it was... I didn't really feel like it quite got to the level of something like the national anthem, the somewhat infamous one, maybe not somewhat, the infamous one with the pig. I really feel like, I actually, the other thing that was funny is the entire history of You, the one about the memories and like the lawyer. I didn't regard that one that highly originally, and then I watched it again and I liked it a lot more. But I'd say for the most part, like for a while I was sort of feeling like the third episode of Black Mirror was always the one that would disappoint me. Waldo Moment was a third one, because I believe that was the same series that started with White Bear, which I thought was a really strong episode. But the Waldo Moment's arguably the one that aged the best. So, I haven't actually watched it again. I've only ever seen it once, but definitely I remember I've reflected on it a few times in terms of the fact that, it really does seem to, I just, with the passage of time, I sort of feel like it's one that I maybe did not have a fair reaction to originally. And I think that's true for the Diamond Age as well. I'm actually quite eager to read it again. There's two of his earlier ones that I haven't read. So I own and have read, and I have owned but have not read Zodiac and The Big U, both of which were before Snow Crash. But Snow Crash was the breakout one. Anyway, sorry, I'm going on too long about Stevenson's fiction. But yeah, he did an interesting one on writing by hand. And I think Neil Stephenson's probably the reason why I started looking at fountain pens. And then once I started looking at fountain pens, I just felt the temptation. I bought the cheapest one I could. I've never owned like a really big and expensive fountain pen, but I've got my trusty companion, let's say, and but yeah, he still advocates writing by hand. It does interest me because I know the research, not cognitive science, neuroscience. Anyway, the research on cognitive benefits of handwriting, I had always understood as the process of writing, because it is slower than taking notes, forces you to write the notes in your own way. Like the benefit comes from the reordering of ideas, not the actual process of writing on the page. And then there was independent research which wasn't necessarily about sort of the retention or the learning benefits of writing by hand, but it did talk about some of the specific I guess neural pathways that are being exercised when you are physically writing notes. And I didn't read the study that Stevenson linked, but the implication seems to be that there is both the cognitive benefit of writing stuff out. Although, in fairness, he's a creative writer, right? So, like, he's exercising his imagination while writing things out. But also joining that with the benefits of actually writing longhand. So anyways, I have a rather embarrassing number of books. It's interesting. He made the note that he uses a lot of moleskins. I've actually moved. I've moved beyond. Sorry, beyond. That sounds a little arrogant. I've moved to something other than moleskins. Like, I don't mind them, but I find that they are. So cost isn't necessarily the worst. I've paid up for some good notebooks, but I felt that it's one where I feel I'm paying quite a bit for the brand, and I feel that there's sometimes better notebooks I can buy for the price. So I have a couple of go-tos now, but I'm at the point I need to fill them. I don't want to be one of those people that just buys. It's kind of like buying luggage, right? Like, buying luggage is all about the trips you may take, but at some point you need to take the trips if you just keep buying luggage and you never go anywhere. It's like, I'm sure everybody can relate to this, that game that you're going to make one day, that book you're going to write one day. Like, you do actually need to you do actually need to make sure that you're using these things. You're not just acquiring new. Actually, the other one that I've heard is apparently, particularly now with so many virtual instruments, there's apparently a phenomena of people who primarily work with keyboards or any kind of digital audio editing to just acquire more and more virtual instruments. And it's like, yeah, when you buy that last one, then you'll make your masterpiece. And it's like, no, I mean, so many of the conventions of electronic music, like the famous 808, obviously not limited to that. I think that's also a hip hop thing. But like one of the reasons, from what I understand, that drum machine was a commercial failure. And the fact that it was a commercial failure meant that it was quite discounted, which then meant that the lower class customer, the ones without a lot of money, could use it. And they used it for this, the kind of things you would get from people without a whole lot at stake in the status quo. And so as a consequence, it wound up becoming this iconic sound, which is just one of these funny quirks, right? Like the feature, like if it was a financial success, it presumably could not have been instrumental, so to speak, in the in the creation of these conventions for a really popular style of music. And yet it's just one of these cases where, someone like the rewards for creating this interesting thing don't actually fall onto the originator. Like I guess Roland probably just took a bath on the 808. But yeah, so I don't know. Constraint. There's a book I really like, A Beautiful Constraint, which covers that. So, but anyway, it was interesting. So I've been making sure my pen's full, and I have at least one notebook to put things in. I've tried to have a commonplace book. It's a ridiculously sized one. I probably shouldn't have bought one that large, but the problem is that usually when I'm really into a book, like I'm into it, and then I don't pull myself out to say, ooh, that's a good line, and like take the time to write it down. So I've been very bad at filling it in, but I don't know. I'll make it all work. Anyways, yeah, I've been about 15 minutes, a little over 15 minutes of babbling on here. But in addition to giving people a chance to come in, there was another one. I am happy to say the thing that I was unburdening myself from today was Reddit. There's someone it's not even a big one. It's like one of these ones that gives me an appreciation for sort of women online. Because like I've been a mod for, I think most of the streams I've been a mod for are for, women/girl streamers, however you want to frame it, females. You just get to see how people behave. You get to see, sometimes they'll be sharing like the DMs that they're getting and things like that. And it obviously just gives you a perspective on, how even independent of content bubbles, people just have very different experiences of the internet. I think everybody kind of knows what it's like to be disrespected and stuff like that. But I remember there's a guy today. And it turns out I wound up interacting with him in the same subreddit. I did not realize it because I was on mobile. And like as soon as I found out who it was, I'm like, oh God, what's going on here? But it had this reference. So it's a Circle Jerk subreddit. And like it had a reference to Ulysses, so as just a tip of the hat to, if not the reference that it's setting up, then to at least let the literary crowd get it. Made a reference to the idea that it's someone else who needs to do that, and then just the immediate reply, "Oh, be my Nora," and I'm like, "Fuck off!" Like. There's lots of ways that for those of you that don't know, like Ulysses takes place on what people know as Bloomsday. And Bloomsday is the first date between James Joyce and the woman who had become his wife, Nora Barnacle. And in like the Bloomsday is actually like it continues to be celebrated by Joyce fans. But it's kind of a dirty holiday because what marks it and what makes it so weird as a date is that apparently the date ended with a hand job. And so it's sort of like, this great work of modernist literature makes as its significant date like this pretty crude event. Sorry, I'm not trying to be too much of a prude about it, but like, comparing it to, we were talking about the Odyssey recently, right? Robert Fagles and his, grand sort of Pope style translation of the Odyssey, to go from that, and have a book called Ulysses, and the significant date is the date of the hand job is, there. And I think the biggest thing, so like, my view on this is that like that was not an invitation to make that sort of thing. The thing I should also note is that one of the reasons why when I saw the name, I recognized it. The person actually went into my direct messages and I'm like, yeah, that's not it, Chief. Sorry, I'm using all the Twitter stereotypes today. I didn't reply to any of it, but it's just like, no, come on, like that's not it. So when somebody's DM'd and you get the be my I'm sure it's supposed to be some sort of like joke, but it's like, you know what? No, like we have standards, and as far as I'm concerned, like if you want to make an explicit reference to Noah Barnacle, that's fine. I sort of think the oblique one has a little more art to it. But, you can do it without casting the person you're replying to in that role and you being the recipient. And frankly, like, I just think whatever the intent, it's kind of creepy and inappropriate, and I could deal with less of that in my life. So, first time I blocked somebody on Reddit, but that's just one of those ones where it's like, this could have been something interesting or fun, and instead now, I'm learning how the block function works. So that's a pretty minor thing to have to worry about in the day, though. It's just like, I don't know, it's dealing with unpleasant people. I did, incidentally, just as a note on it, I unfollowed the sub as a result of that. It's just sort of like, it's not necessarily the sub's fault, but I don't really want to be, especially when people are like, well, you shouldn't post in a Circle Jerk sub if you don't expect that sort of thing. I'm like, okay, I mean, if that's the standard, like, I don't need to be here. Like, I could spend time playing video games. I could spend time reading books. So, Astropathic Chapel. The indispensable astropaths are instrumental in establishing communication between worlds and ships on the scale of the immense galaxy. Continually exposed to the Immaterium's terrors, many of these psychers perish, go insane, or even meet a fate worse than death. Reddit commenters. All right. The throne is furnished with a conductive charge supply and can be turned into an instrument of execution at any moment.
Follow my lead.
So part of this is just about finding secrets. It's kind of a... Oop. Am I caught in the song's reverie, or is that really you, Lord Captain? I was looking like an argument. Remain vigilant. Check the throne's pacifying safety switch before activation.
My success is an irrefutable certainty.
The machine uses its many quills to commit the astropath's whispers to paper, then sorts the resulting raw mental images based on their meaning. The back of the throne is smeared with something dark red and old. Oh, sorry, I don't want to spend too much time on, like, meta considerations, but At the end of last broadcast, for some reason Twitch isn't emailing me the stats anymore, but that's fine. I mean, there's a way of dragging them out of the panel. I did just want to say to anybody watching, I could really use some advice in terms of how much people want to see this. Is it something that, you'd really like to see more of? Is it something you feel sort of indifferent with? Is it actually something that maybe is driving you away? You'd like to see maybe more Outlast or Uncle Chops or something like that. It's mostly just because I'm taking a lot of time to get through it. And I do want to do some more CRPGs, but Rogue Trader doesn't have to be it. And especially given some of what Revive Snow said in terms of just the amount of time it took to get through. I'm not opposed to doing this on something that is a little more appropriate to the, watch at your own pace, like a VOD. So if it's working for you, definitely let me know, particularly if you would really like to see more of this, because I do weight that quite heavily. I think most people probably don't like making the negative case. I think people just tend not to show up if they don't want to see something. But this is one where I could actually get some feedback from people in terms of whether or not they're enjoying it. Because as interesting as it is, and as much as I like to finish certain types of games, I don't want this to come at the expense of something that people may enjoy a bit more. So sorry to make it sound like this thing's on the chopping block. I actually do want to play this all the way through, but that doesn't mean that I have to do it live, 3 times a week, let's say. Your Lordship, the Emperor has blessed us this day with your visit. Praise be to the Machine God.
It's about time.
I think this is the one with the old and red. Yeah. Your Lordship. Okay, same line. Underneath the grill, you can see enormous outlines of formidable machines in a greenish haze. The last beacon cannot be saved from the 13th storm. The lapsed father of his beloved son will open his yawning maw. I don't know. Oblivion is inevitable. After the boundless sunset comes the horrific sunrise, brought forth into a wailing world from the womb of... That was good timing. That's the 4th one this week. No further explanation.
Challenge for me?
An endless stream of symbols fills the paper tapes. A deceased navigator's organ repurposed for the choirmaster's needs. Here is where processed messages converge from all over the chapel. I do wish I kind of understood the mechanics behind space travel in this case. I don't think I fully follow. I mean, I guess technically we could see. Uh-oh. How do I get to the encyclopedia? A powerful sanctioned psyker who can send and receive messages through space using their telepathic abilities. Those chosen to become astropaths undergo the ritual of soul binding that purifies their body and soul. The ceremony leaves astropaths blind, yet they become bound to the Emperor and are trained to send their thoughts across the galaxy via the medium of the warp. Okay, so sorry, it's a communication center. The voices blend in an unnatural unison. The longer you listen to the choral chant, the stronger your headache grows. The receiver's enormous reels direct paper tapes containing unprocessed text into the chapel's depths after blessing the paper with an imprint of sacred cogs.
This explorator is blessed with multifunctionality.
Once the text is ready for final interpretation, the compiler sends it to the choirmaster along with a list of meanings for the known images.
I'll lay claim to the stars.
Protect us from the machine spirit's unrest, for without his gifts, our sacrifices are fruitless. You can barely hear the voice of the young astropath standing very still next to the bulky mechanism, his face a frozen mask of despair. His anemic hands are pressed to his chest, clutching crumpled strips of thick paper. He hears you approach and composes himself. Sigma AR-87. The Edgeseer, a tech priest whose specialization is the maintenance and repair of sacred machines. His head lowered does not so much as glance in your direction. With his hands folded underneath his robe, he makes a barely audible, unpleasant sound, a prayer in Techna Lingua. Okay, so it's the same thing. Collection of dialects used by the Adeptus Mechanicus and its tech priests can be used as a spoken language with audio bursts or as a machine code with electrical signals. What is going on here? Sacred Compiler is ailing, your lordship. A gloom has come over the machine spirits, and they are disrupting the mechanism's operation. The 12th row of the drum is now adding incorrect symbols. The man shows you a stack of papers, and you notice at once that the rows of squiggles in each line all end with the same glyph. We summon the servants of the Omnissiah, but the machine spirits are none too eager to heed their prayers. The esteemed Engeseer is in a state of tech prayer trance and hasn't moved from the spot for a day now. He shrinks his head into his shoulders timidly. I had the audacity to think the sacred compiler could be better helped by examining its parts, but who am I to question the secret knowledge of the Adeptus Mechanicus? Unit Sigma AR-87 is currently in a tech trance of shared comprehension, with the spirit of the Archaeotech device catalogued under the name Stream Spindle. Disturbing the unit is not recommended. Pasquale falls silent for a few seconds. However, a preliminary diagnostic has revealed several algorithmic faults that are in conflict with the sacred mechanism's process. A practical intervention into certain cycles will likely aid the release of the accumulated burden. Such a trifle of an error. The young man exclaims in astonishment. Imagine a single extra character creeping its way into the coordinates for a warp jump and sending the flagship to the center of a star. Imagine the word disloyal becoming is loyal, resulting in thousands of your faithful servants falling victim to treachery. Nothing is a trifle to an astropath. Let us see if there's a way I can help. Okay, the compiler at the Astropathic Chapel has been malfunctioning. The astropaths are in sore need of help, and the rogue trader may wish to provide it. The mechanism that permeates the entire chapel has been malfunctioning. Every issue causing the problem must be identified and resolved. The mechanism rotates steadily, adding dry clicking notes to the chapel's melody every time a manipulator catches against one of the dents on the drum. Once clean of the candle wax that had seeped inside, the inner workings of the interpreter move much more easily. Okay, so it looks like we basically just need to look for hands here. Grumbling receiver router.
Operation successful.
Scraps of paper are stuck deep inside the mechanism, causing it to rattle terribly. Cleaning the machine's parts and anointing them with sacred unguent restores the machine to its clear, clanging voice.
Victory awaits!
I think on this game, not intentionally, but I do sometimes have a tendency to focus on the negative a little bit. But one of the things I will say I like about some of the writing in this is, just some of the basic rhetorical techniques. So like its use of alliteration, clean, clanging. it's quite nice. Like, some of it is pleasant to read and speak.
The machine god grants me insight.
The sensors of the text-correcting calibrator are dead. A prayer to the Omnissiah makes the new sensors spring to life.
None shall stand in my way.
I will say, I mean, maybe I need to put the sting in the tail or something, but I do find the reason I pause a lot is because usually the text will be gone before I can read it aloud, but it's not a major hardship to pause, in my opinion.
This Explorator is blessed with multifunctionality.
The miniature screens are displaying red error messages. You command the machine to run a diagnostic, and the messages disappear. Faulty transcriber manipulators.
Operation successful.
The transcriber's quills are leaving blots on the paper. You remove the device's casing and discover a leaking ink supply hose. All right, looks like we are done. That's actually nice that I didn't have to investigate the whole room for it. New level. So, I usually like going for the recommendations. We've got fewer than before. Blood of Martyrs. Whenever an ally uses a heroic act, that ally gains temporary wounds equal to 10% of their maximum wounds. Let's say, okay, I'm going to take a time to actually find out what temporary wounds are. Additional wound. Let's just go to the insect. Okay. Additional wounds granted by certain effects and abilities. When a character suffers damage in combat, temporary wounds are deducted first, followed by the character's regular wounds. Temporary wounds generally stay until the end of... Oh, that's good, actually. Or until the character loses them by suffering damage. I thought they only lasted for a turn, so I should be valuing temporary wounds considerably more. Inspire Courage. Whenever the officer targets an ally with an ability the first time in a round, that ally gains +4 temporary wounds. And Steel Resolve. The officer's resolve is increased by 5. Resolve influences how efficiently and for how long characters can fight in battle. It determines the amount of momentum gained at the beginning of each turn after killing an enemy. I can see Blood of Martyrs than Steel Resolve working quite well. And I guess we're going for Willpower. Okay, Reckless Strike. The warrior's next melee attack gains 20% armor penetration and +8 damage, and ignores 12% of the target's parry. Every enemy who survives an attack enhanced by this ability will attack the warrior in return, including creatures with ranged weapons. So alternatively, we can break through. Warrior gains the Slash ability, which costs 0 AP and has 1 charge for the current round. The ability and Slash cannot be used in the same round as Charge. Ah, okay. I can see that working. The warrior gathers all their might for a crushing strike. Their next melee attack pushes the enemy away. The distance of the push is equal to 3 cells. So this is actually kind of an interesting one as far as a combo is concerned, because presumably you break through if you want to charge and you think you're going to engage for a long time, and then presumably you forceful strike. You forceful strike if you want to sort of chain the charges against the enemy. I do prefer the idea of staying locked in, though, because generally the idea would be we want to be neutralizing the ranged units. Then there's Taunting Scream. The warrior unleashes a terrifying scream, drawing the attention of their enemies and becoming the priority target for any enemy who fails a willpower resistance test for 3 rounds. I think we'll do Breakthrough. While the braced effect lasts, the Navy officer can use the Get Off Me ability once per round, and the targets of their melee attacks must pass an Agility Resistance 10 with a -10 penalty or fall prone. That sounds very useful. Actually, I'm not even going to read the other ones. Idira? Instant exposure seems tempting. I also feel I've been undervaluing the psychic powers. Oh, this is interesting. So this is sort of a I don't want my psyker to die ability. There were some interesting... So there's... If the operative attacks a target with an exploit stack from a distance of 10 cells or further, that attack deals plus 15% damage. That would be really great if I knew the distance of my lightning attack, but I don't, so... I wish I kind of knew how the perception bonus works, because if I look at the summary, it says perception, and I've got a +5 here. But I don't know what the perception bonus is. This characteristic bonus. Maybe that's what it is. Comprehensive analysis seems pretty good. Oh, continuous analysis also seems pretty interesting. You know what, let's do continuous just because that doesn't involve work on my part, and then we'll move on. Now, I'm not sure I want to be working on tech use here. Just because Pascal already covers that. So let's go for Warp Lore. Controlled shot. The soldier gives a sign that they're about to open fire. The soldier and their allies will automatically dodge the soldier's next attack. Concentrated fire, the next ranged area attack. Well, we're not going to do one of those. So entrenched, the soldier immediately spends all AP and gains a 30% bonus to their cover efficiency. The next time the soldier uses run and gun, they gain back all the spent AP and MP plus 1 additional AP. It also resets the cooldown of all the soldier's abilities except for run and gun. And rapid fire, the soldier's next ranged burst attack will have the base rate of fire double but deal 25% less damage. And all the shots follow random trajectories. I'm not going to lie, I actually don't really like most of these, but Entrench seems like something I might actually use, so... And I can see... Lore Imperium seems interesting, but I think maybe Awareness is the one that I need to focus on most. Okay, weak body, weak soul. Maybe. I actually kind of like the idea of continuous analysis. And we've maxed our logic and tech use. Okay. Zachary Wise. Choirmaster Zachary Wise, a tall old man in a long green robe, stands motionless in front of a cogitator. The closer you approach, the clearer you can hear his continuous, unintelligible whisper. You are about to call his name when he falls silent sharply and turns toward you first. Lord Captain. A visit from the rogue trader is an honor for us. Like other astropaths at the chapel, the choirmaster's eyes are bandaged over with time-worn scrolls of sacred manuscripts. Nevertheless, you cannot shake the feeling that his otherworldly glowing gaze is studying you keenly. How can I be of use, your lordship? Sanctioning is a brutal procedure, one which robs every astropath of the gift of sight, but in return they gain a new kind of vision that allows them to see what ordinary people cannot. Remind me, who are you? The wrinkled face and drooping corners of the mouth look focused yet courteous at the same time. My name is Zachary Wise, your lordship. I am the choirmaster of the Astropathic Choir. I was posted to this ship soon after my soul-binding ritual on Holy Terra. You might say I have been serving the House von Valancius all my life. Have you made a confession lately? The choirmaster replies, slightly perplexed. I beg your lordship's pardon. Why are some destined to perish in the warp, while others must go on living? How odd, he grimaces as though with pain. Odd that you should have listened to my confession, and odd that you should choose to approach me afterward. Why? I felt there was anguish in that confession. I wanted to help. My confession made you anxious on my account, resulting in a waste of your time, for which I apologize. I am thankful for your consideration. He smiles a bittersweet smile. Death always keeps close to astropaths, and its punishments for arrogance and weakness are severe. I've seen my fellows die, and at times the memories are exceedingly hard to bear. Sadly, almost every choir has a story like that, and a survivor who has carried their ghosts with them ever since. Wise lets out a ragged breath. My apologies, but I cannot continue worrying at these old wounds. Directing a choir requires a clear and firm state of mind. Did you like serving under Lady Theodora? I served her for 2 decades and never knew another Lord Captain before your ascension. With her, I had been through... The choirmaster falls silent, as though briefly transported in his mind to another place. A shadow of regret creeps onto his face. Many things. Lady Theodora had a good understanding of my significance within the overall mechanism of the ship's services. Poorly concealed irritation creeps into the expression of regret on his face, which, however, did not stop her from neglecting my warnings. I'm confused. So how old are you? If my calculations are correct, having factored in our movements through the warp, then I turned 34 a month and a half ago. There is a pause. You can't quite decide if the old man in front of you is joking, but there is not the slightest hint of a smile on his face. Tell me about the Astropathic Choir. Of course, Lord Captain. Is there something specific you would like to know? What is this place? To us astropaths, this place is our cradle and our grave, Lord Captain. You are at the conflux of every secret missive, every order of prime importance, every scheme being plotted behind the scenes. You are at a place where each of your loyal astropaths is ready to lay down their life for crumbs of information, if that is your wish. We receive and send messages. For hours turning into days, we wander the dark depths of the immaterium, carrying our voice through the warp's eternal night, bringing it to our comrades in some remote refuge, accepting the voices, signals, and missives of others into our own abode. Those are most often meant for you, your lordship, and at times they are meant for no one. This is a really neat idea, by the way. Like, it's sort of... I'm trying to think of, like, the analogy I'm thinking of. It's kind of like, I once upon a time found out about number stations. And, I mean, like, I think the appeal of number stations comes down to it's clearly something hidden. It is clearly something not intended for you. And there's 2 reactions you can get for that. Like, so to a certain extent, I don't, like, lie awake at night wondering what number stations mean. Because the very simple answer is, it's not meant for me, right? But there is that appeal of the hit. I mean, you know, I think most people have found me through Cultist Simulator, so I think everybody knows the, you know, the appeal of the occult, of the forbidden, the unknown. So, you know, when I looked into this, you know, there's whole communities of, like, searching radio station, like just searching radio waves, trying to find number stations, and it's kind of like a super version of that. And done by people, because it's, you know, Warhammer 40k. And so, people are cheaper than machines. That's probably a really terrible analogy, but it's the only... I got to draw from my own... Yes, I am the type of very cool guy who looks at number stations over the weekend. Point to the mechanical drum. What device is this? It is a sacred compiler that helps us record, store, and, to an extent, unriddle messages. The astropaths first receive these messages in the form of muddled images, dictating what they see to the machine, which logs their every word. From the reels and receivers on the ceiling, the machine-recorded words are routed through lines under the floor into transcribers and then the thesaurus core. This core is the most important part of the mechanism, as it contains a vast catalog of various symbols and the methods of their interpretation. The compiler matches the images in the message against its data and forwards the results to the central cogitator and myself so I can begin the ritual of decoding. I know of no other choir that possesses so wise a mechanism, and I praise the God Emperor for its existence. However, while the compiler hastens the extraction of intelligible meaning from perplexing imagery, an astropath must still open their mind to interpretation, which is no less perilous than the rites of receiving or sending an astropathic message. If your machine knows the meaning of the symbols, why can't it decode the messages itself? Regrettably for us all, your lordship, astropathic messages are not ciphered dispatches, but rather psychic imprints containing information. Only an astropath can read the entirety of something created through the medium of the warp. Furthermore, as messages pass through the immaterium, they might become distorted by malevolent intent. It falls to your servants alone to shield their mind with faith and separate the true meaning from the influence of the ruinous powers. Man, there's a really interesting idea here. So, I've been... this is back when I read Simon Singh's The Code Book. I was... in one sense, it's something we take for granted, but I was really struck by the idea of public key cryptography. There's two things that I remember finding really memorable about that book. One was the Venure cipher. I thought that was such a really interesting idea, and specifically just how a very slight adjustment to probably the one cipher everyone knows, right? Like the Caesar shift, can introduce that complexity. And I think in retrospect, I can see why that was so appealing, because to a certain extent, that's kind of the name of the game, just, in a more complicated mathematical sense, right? You introduce simple changes so that it is easy to encrypt a message, but very difficult to decrypt it without the right information. So Venure was the first one. I hope I pronounced that correctly. The second one that was very interesting was the idea of public key cryptography, because this idea of the shared secret and how you handle it, it's once you know it, it's just such a, well, yeah, obviously sort of thing. I don't want to be hyperbolic, but I really do have to believe that our modern economy is largely founded on the reliability of public key cryptography, because how else are you going to transmit your credit card information? Presumably, if you didn't feel that it would work, you would not be engaging in these remote transactions. And yet, I think it was late 70s in which it was discovered. It's a tricky one for me, because if I recall correctly, it's been a while since I've read that book, but I think the story goes that when the United Kingdom declassified some documents, it seems like they had discovered it first, but didn't reveal it. But in any case, the idea is, it's one of those fascinating ones where, once it's introduced to you, you almost wonder why we didn't ever think of this or have this. And yet, as far as time, actually, I'm going to look this up just really quickly. Oh, excuse me. Before the mid-1970s, all cipher streams were used symmetric key algorithms. Um, mentions Jevon's number. Can the reader say what two numbers multiplied together will produce the number 8,616,460,799? I think it is unlikely that anyone but myself will ever know. Oh, yeah, it was. It says it here in the article. So in 1970, James H. Ellis, a British cryptographer at the UK Government Communications Headquarters, GCHQ, conceived of the possibility of non-secret encryption, now called public key cryptography, but could see no way to implement it. In 1973, his colleague Clifford Cox implemented what has become known as the RSA encryption algorithm, giving a practical method of non-secret encryption. And in 1974, another GCHQ mathematician and cryptographer, Malcolm Williamson, developed what is now known as the Diffie-Hellman key exchange. The scheme was also passed the U.S.'s National Security Agency. Both organizations had a military focus, and only limited computing power was available in any case. The potential of public key cryptography remained unrealized by either organization. These discoveries were not publicly acknowledged until the research was declassified by the British government in 1997. Actually, it wasn't that long until someone developed. So in 1976, an asymmetric key crypto system was published by Whitfield Diffie and Martin Hellman. What, is that why they call it the Diffie-Hellman exchange? No. Who, influenced by Ralph Merkel's work on public key distribution, disclosed a method of public key agreement. But yeah, so 1976 would be the fair statement here. Anyway, I have my interests. So there's something really interesting of the idea where it's not necessarily. It's like you've got the Alice and Bob story, but the corruption here is like spiritual corruption. So you're not dealing with the one. The thing is, I have a couple of books on basically the mathematics of secrets, so cryptography. I wish I was a better mathematician because it really strikes me as one of those subjects that is like truly fascinating, but I also understand deals with some of the most abstract and complicated mathematics, like the sort of stuff that I'm not trained on, and I know I have a bad habit of making careless errors with. But, you know, there's something kind of fun about this idea of adapting these real world concepts into into the Warhammer 40K, everything is heresy, the world's full of misery. We use people like machines kind of scenario. This is a fun idea. Okay. So if you wanted to hide certain information from me, you could. Weiss' face turns into a bitter grimace. My duty to shield you from the monstrous communications that filter through the warp. My duty is to shield you from the monstrous communications that filter through the warp. The screams of the Emperor's loyal servants, centuries dead by now. The nightmarish, maddening images of the Sea of Souls. The cursed symbols that caused astropaths to convulse in violent fits of frenzy. The messages from abominations in search of weak minds to devour. Concealing all that from you is my duty. Okay, that's still the warp. Actually, the other thing that this reminds me... Sorry, I'm unpacking a lot of this, but there's a lot of interesting ideas here. This also reminds me of David Langford's basilisks, like from the short story Blit, and then I think it's What Happened at Cambridge 4, like alt FAQ basilisk and different kinds of darkness. I think there's like 4 basilisk stories. But the idea, if you're not familiar with it, I should probably read that story at some point. I think I have read it on stream, actually, but the idea behind the basilisk is that there is basically there are a subset of images which effectively crash the human brain. Like by looking at them, you cannot process the image and it causes the human equivalent of a blue screen. And it the first one is just, there's like a I don't know, like a nationalist terrorist organization that's they're like spray painting the image known as the parrot in a minority community, and the news group one, like comp.faq.basilisk or whatever it was called, is sort of this like after the internet is like after it's gotten all the images removed because it's no longer safe, kind of an FAQ for a world where our information technology has been radically changed by this. What happened at Cambridge 4 is how the basilisk image gets out. That's a really interesting one. They're all interesting, but like that, I remember being quite struck by that one. And different kinds of darkness is kind of the coda to it, of the children who grow up in a world of the basilisk images, and some of the decisions that the parents need to make to keep the children safe, and at what point they're allowed to make their own choices. So for those of you that haven't checked it out, Langford's basilisk stories are quite interesting. And also, like, I think the original one's available online, but the other ones, or no, the newsletter one's also, or newsgroup one is also available as a online. But What Happened at Cambridge 4, which that might be my favorite. I need to think about it a bit. And Different Kinds of Darkness, which is also good. Those are in his collection, Different Kinds of Darkness, which you can buy from Ainsible. And honestly, he's a guy who makes a living doing his writing. So I encourage you all to support that. How does one become an astropath? We were all part of the Imperial tithe once, psychers delivered to Terra on the Black Ships, but only a few of the candidates had what it took to study astropathy. Fewer still successfully completed the grueling training to be eligible for soul binding, and almost none survived the initiation. He throws his head back. We were given the privilege to behold the Emperor's light, a light flawless and searing. A pious smile visits his lips. That changes you. It wounds you irreparably, it takes your eyesight, but in exchange you commune with greatness. His presence in our souls fortifies them as we stand against the malicious powers. After the ritual, an astropath is assigned their position. At this or that adeptus, an astropathic relay, or a ship. More often than not, our first place of service is also our last. If something happens to your choir, where can I find new astropaths? The expression on his wrinkled face grows even more serious. It would be more on point to say when something happens. The Emperor's blessing protects us from the warp's various influences. However, there are horrors dwelling in the void for which even this defense would be no obstacle, especially if one spends as much time in their company as we do. There is only one way to procure astropaths, and that is through the Adeptus Administratum. Luck permitting, unattached astropaths from the sector will be posted to the ship, ones who, for whatever reason, have lost their place of service. Failing that, the request will go to Terra, and we will have to wait a long time. That said, there are other options. Blasphemous, forbidden options. The choirmaster grimaces. Unsanctioned psychers. Unprotected and broken souls who seldom live past their first few seances. And even those would do, should the God Emperor put our souls through severe trials. And judging by how rabid the warp has been of late, by the number of dead astropaths, those trials will be upon us sooner than our prayers could reach Terra. I know of a couple places where I can get new astropaths, Idira grins maliciously. That's, of course, if you don't insist on them being all classy and proper like this fried-eyed bunch. I want to discuss other topics. I am listening carefully, Lord Captain. That odd noise inside the chapel, does it not bother you? On the contrary, Lord Captain. I find it a mental focusing technique used by your flagship's choir, one that I invented myself. This music was written by an astropath. What my charge as an eye hear is not what ordinary people hear. Its true depth and beauty cannot be fathomed without the Emperor's blessing. The music protects our minds from rudimentary thoughts, purifies and sharpens them. But above all else, it serves as a beacon of sorts amid the tumultuous sea of souls, a thread to lead them home from the deadly maze. I've witnessed the death of one of your astropaths. What happened? The choirmaster sighs and makes the sign of the Aquila. May the God Emperor rest his soul and protect him from the ruinous power's tenacious claws. This was the 5th one this month. Our younger voices cannot handle the warp storms raging in the expanse and end up losing their minds. He adds barely audibly, if they are lucky. Something is afoot on the other side of the Maw, Lord Captain. Something infinitely sinister, something disastrous. The scraps of mental images that reach us from the Imperium carry the mark of doom. The images emanating from there are like a beast baring its teeth. The Maw, a turbulent region of space that divides the Coronis expanse from the rest of the Imperium of Man. You have heard accounts of disturbances in the warp affecting psychers, especially astropaths, who delve most deeply into the immaterium. But there have been more and more alarming stories of late. Something is raging in the warp, something that possesses a particular threat to those with psychic powers. The Cicatrix? Maledictum, a huge warp storm stretching across the galaxy, the result of a catastrophic rift in real space. The impact of the Great Rift can be felt throughout the entire cosmos, manifesting in anomalies of space and time, as well as in the intensification of other warp storms, which in turn can lead to the disappearance of previously known routes through the immaterium. You must tend to your choir. I shall have good food, recaf, and relaxing bombs delivered. I appreciate your concern. Perhaps these small indulgences will give them strength and save someone's life. We will speak later, choirmaster. I have business to attend to. Goodbye, your lordship. The choirmaster follows you with his otherworldly glowing gaze as you leave, and then turns back to the cogitator. I do wonder if there is a... This is... I wonder... how many games would be willing to give the telemetry on the decisions? Because I don't know... Like, I know for the most part, games guard the player data pretty closely. That can... I mean, particularly if you're thinking of like a mobile game or something like that. That's really the bread and butter, right? You need to find out what it costs to get a player and how much on average that player is going to earn you. Turkey apparently just kills it at that game, by the way. Like, apparently they're the ones who have just, like, you know, they apparently have just mastered the ability to entice and profit from users. And but you know, you have games like Mass Effect and like the Telltale games, like Walking Dead, and some of them will give you, you know, how many, like sometimes at the end of the game, right? Like how many players went for one choice over another. And like to a certain extent, this stuff is only really interested to nerds like me. But I am really fascinated by some of these choices that that people make, because to me, the iconoclast choices are, maybe this is communicating too much faith in humanity, frankly, but the I don't know, like, the iconoclast choices strike me as 2026 choices in the, you know, grim darkness of the future where there is only war, the 41st millennium. Like, to a certain extent, the iconoclast choices are like the good guy Lord Captain choices, but in another sense, they may not be consistent with what the norms of the society are. The thing that I think is interesting is it doesn't make it. I don't think that's incompatible with the game. I mean, you're as a rogue trader, you are playing a very unique character, and it's hard to say in this case that your personality has resulted in you gaining the role of rogue trader. All that it's really done is it's allowed you a little bit more expressiveness than if you were born on a death world or something like that. But I find them interesting. Like, there's a side of me that wonders. It's a little bit like the game Old World, which basically, to my understanding, they needed to make slavery OP from a game balance point of view, because there is just a natural tendency to find. I mean, I think this is a good thing, right? But the fact that we find the concept of owning another human such a repellent idea that you can't just make it like one of two choices in a game. You specifically need to make it a choice that you would take because it confers enough of an advantage in the game that you overcome your moral scruples about it. Just to be clear, I'm not saying that that experiment is not demonstrating that there's some positive amount of slavery that people will endure. Obviously, we are talking about imaginary slavery in the context of a video game, but you are a ruler. And I think it's telling that people, even in this fantasy, are uncomfortable enough with the idea that they sort of need, this is going to sound so horrible, but they need to be incentivized to make the historical choice. And I kind of wonder if in games like this, while the purpose really is to, have a fantasy. Nobody, I think, wants to live in the Warhammer 40k universe. And yet, I think it's fair to say that because there's just that natural inclination you have as a RPG player, you kind of want to play a character, but you're still probably going to fall back on maybe your own moral scruples. And I think in the end, the Iconoclast is most reflective of our priorities, all things being equal. And so the reason why I'd be interested in seeing the reason why I think it'd be interesting to kind of see the results of the of these choices, these collective choices, is my hypothesis basically is that you would see a higher prevalence of Iconoclast, but sorry, I got distracted. But yeah, basically it's I kind of want to see this stuff for this and other games to see is this actually this would tell me a little bit of something about how people play these games, right? How much do people jump into this idea that they're playing someone else and really sort of conform to sort of the norms of the world. That may even communicate that it may even communicate that how do I put it? That it may communicate sorry, my brain is fried. it may communicate something more than just rogue traders, how rogue traders being like interacted with or interpreted, but more just generally, like do players self-insert, or do they sort of play to the hilt? And then, you know, once you start seeing differences between games, you can ask certain questions like, do you, you know, do you see these differences as a result of a certain form of storytelling? So one example I would give out of this, I don't know too much about Disco Elysium, and part of that is a deliberate effort on my part not to go poking where I don't belong, because it's one I'm really interested in engaging with on its own terms. I think what interests me is that it's got this really flamboyant opening, and from what I understand, the game actually gets quite serious, especially by the end. And there was a suggestion, at least, that if you lean in too far to the loony bits, or the fun or whatever, the sex, drugs, and disco or whatever, this may potentially close you off from certain choices. I don't know if that's true or not, or if this is more just sort of a reflection in terms of your, you know, the repeated behavior sort of becoming more natural. But I think there's something kind of interesting about that. And, you know, again, I think that, depending on how it's communicated, may result in certain, I think that's going to result in a way of playing the game that's different from how you might normally play an RPG. And I think the insights you'd get out of that, right? Like, do people pick a funny option just because it's funny? And then what you say is like, would you pick a funny option if it was costly? But again, this is my data inclination. I should jump back into the game. The bridge is the heart of the Void Ship. It is where the vessel's command center is located, as well as the senior officers' posts and the cogitator control systems. Okay. I suspect... Lord Captain, the Master-at-Arms snaps to attention, ready to carry out your order. The lop-eared Kleppas, the confession. She cocks an eyebrow. Please repeat your orders, Lord Captain. What's the dirty secret behind those strange words? Tell me. I have no embarrassing secrets or weaknesses. Please recite the charge so I can make a formal statement. The Kleppas, Jocasta. I know everything. The anxiety flares in her gaze. I'm ready to answer any questions as soon as I understand what you mean, Lord Captain. At ease. It was a test, and you passed. Nope. That is all for now. Proud to serve the dynasty. Alright, so it looks like we may want to be talking with...
Lord Captain?
I'd like to know more about my seneschal.
As you wish, Lord Captain.
No, we're not.
Of course. Lord Captain.
So we may not have... Have the Vox spirits brought you anything interesting lately? Forgive me, Lord Captain. I have no information that would be of interest to you at the moment. The lop-eared Kleppas. The confession. I assume you heard my confessional message, Vigdis replies without a hint of awkwardness. Do you wish to talk about it? The important question is why. I was fault-checking the Vox devices in the ship's reliquary. Messaging recording works, but deletion does not. You have helped me establish that. Thank you. Why lop-eared kleppas specifically? At the time, I had nothing to repent of, so I dictated an excerpt from an old letter to my mother. As you heard, it contained arguments in favor of keeping lop-eared kleppas on the ship. I can still recite it from memory. Vigdis, I want a pair of kleppas aboard the ship. I am going to quote my mother's response. That is impossible. You see, the species went extinct several centuries ago. Vigdis's voice grows ever so slightly warmer. I am very sorry, Lord Captain. There aren't any kleppas to be had. Your confession perplexed the initiate. Find a way to delete it, and we shall forget about it. Will do, Lord Captain. Would you like to discuss other matters? That will be all for now. I live to serve, Lord Captain. I should probably make some guess. So I've kind of just been spamming I've kind of been spamming the different options, but I should actually maybe develop some hypotheses as to who the characters are. So, God, these really look like check marks rather than, or maybe they are, but. Okay, so Interrogator, Gleam of the Final Dawn, Troubling Confessions. I'm not quite sure what it says in progress, but is that true for... Yeah. I actually don't know what this symbol means. We're looking for the one who lamented the... No, sorry. The well-being of the orphans. Captain Zergay, how you doing? Thank you for that. Compiler in the Astropathic Chapel has been malfunctioning. The Astropaths are sore need of help, and the rogue trader may wish to provide... Oh, hang on. And yet it says it's still in progress. I'll go back and talk to the Astropath. But on the confessions, so first two voices seem to be male. One lamented the fate of those who died in the warp, while the other was concerned about the well-being of orphans aboard the ship. The third confession came from a woman and mentioned lop-eared kleppas. So we're looking for a monsieur, not a milady. Ravor, ya old softy. The tall man before you appears to be woven from tendons and muscle. Blue veins snake under his white, almost dove-colored skin, and his scalp and chin are covered in cropped white hair. His neck and shoulders are wrapped in wires that hint at the presence of neural connectors under his uniform. The officer's face seems to be twisted in a perpetual grimace of annoyance and anger, but he greets you with a respectful nod. Lord Captain, Master Helms and Ravor at your service. A lot of grimaces in this world. Do you know anything about a ship named the Fiery Reckoning? Ravor winces as if in pain. Doesn't grimace this time. I've heard the name, that much I'm sure of, but I can't recall the details. I wonder if it was part of that operation that late Mort was put in charge of. If it was, then there's nothing I can tell you, Lord Captain. The whole thing was kept under wraps. Your best chance would be to ask the High Factorum. Maybe some of his treasury records have a mentioning of this Fiery Reckoning. Have you made a confession lately? No, I'm up to my connectors and work as it is. The orphans on the ship have already been provided with the bare essentials, have they not? The helmsman scratches the back of his head, thoughtfully. Damned if I know, Lord Captain. If you ask me, our orphans have it worlds better than they would on other ships. Thank you for your answers. It was definitely not you. I'll be blasted if I understand a thing, but I'm here to serve. Something else you want to discuss? I must take my leave. Lord Captain? I don't think we have anything else to talk about with Argenta,
Greetings.
The Lord Captain himself. To what do I owe the honor? Have you made a confession lately? Sounds like the start of an interesting conversation. He looks you directly in the eye. No, I have not. The orphans on the ship have already been provided with the bare essentials, have they not? The bare minimum, yes. I sometimes check in on our little ragamuffins. They don't have it easy, no parents, and they live like new recruits in an infantry regiment. Please, your lordship, do not neglect the children. Clearly you prefer private confessions. You were right. I'm used to talking about important things in the heart-to-heart conversations. Heinrich flashes you a genuine smile, like the one we're having right now. That's enough for now, Heinrich. I don't really know if it... Like, in terms of that dialogue, I'm not really sure it removed any doubt that this individual made that confession, but, I mean, the dialogue tree has certainly said that the matter's done. All right, so I thought... Oh, let's chat. Pleasure to meet you, Lord Captain. How may I be of assistance? Vigdis informed me about a problem with the servitors. What happened? You see, your lordship, the ship's servitors have been malfunctioning as of late. They violate protocols, interrupt their tasks, observe crew members for long periods of time, and move erratically with no meaning or purpose. Generous Danrock nervously pulls on his luxurious frock coat as if it were uncomfortably tight. Had it been a routine technical fault, I would have decided the fate of these servitors myself, but I deemed it necessary to notify you. I do not wish to hide such irregularities from the Lord Captain. If you wish to observe the servitors' unusual behavior before you decide their fate, this can be arranged. The majority of the defective units have been delivered to one of the storage compartments pending your decision. Pasquale Hanauman expressed the desire to be present during the inspection, should it be carried out. I suppose the expertise of the esteemed Majos could come in handy. I wish to take a look at these servitors before deciding their fate. As you wish, your lordship. Would you like the Engisir Prime to accompany you? Yes, Pascal should come with me. As your lordship commands. Sector data unavailable, region data unavailable. Location Von Valancius flagship, lower decks. Material report of a tech phenomena that was observed during the Lord Captain's visit to Bay AKN 108 from the words of High Factorum Janris Danrock. When his lordship arrived at the scene, he found the servitors in the same position they had assumed after they had been corralled into the bay, all standing in a long spiraling line and facing the center of their strange formation. The moment his lordship crossed the threshold of the bay gate, their bodies jerked into motion, all as one, as if obeying a command. The servitors turned to face the Lord Captain. The technomats tasked with overseeing the defective units even reached for their weapons, but then the servitors went still just as abruptly, staring at his lordship with vacant eyes. All present held their breath. Disturbed by this sight, we awaited for the Lord Captain to speak. His lordship Constantinos von Valancius either took several steps towards the servitors, gestured for his Engisir Prime to study the servitors, demanded a report on the defective unit status from the technomats, ordered one of the... let's get a report on the status. The technomats' long-winded and detailed report could have been summarized in a single key point. Despite the servitors' abnormal behavior, they were still quite capable of carrying out tasks, and therefore the circumstances did not call for their termination. All present held their breath, disturbed by this sight. We awaited for the Lord Captain to speak. Gestured for his Engisir Prime to study the servitors. The Engisir Prime slowly waded into the motionless ranks of the servitors, peering into their faces and checking the readings. There was no haste in Pascal's actions. With mesmerizing diligence, he inspected every single unit in his path, and binaric prayers were his companions in this investigation. The examination confirmed the technomat's initial hypothesis. The servitors' souls, or rather the souls of the people they once were, had awakened. Not yet fully conscious of their past and present, these half-machines could nonetheless feel primitive emotions and sensations such as fear and pain. This undesirable consequence of shoddily performed lobotomy is most rarely observed, and yet, for some unknown reason, it had occurred in every single one of the servitors gathered in the bay. I don't want to interrupt too much of the servitor chat, but there is actually one wild claim that I heard. I'm trying to remember I think this was Conversations with Tyler. If you can just give me a quick second, I want to see if I can... I'm going to spend too much time on it, but I just wanted to see if I can find the episode. Oh, you know what? Maybe it was... No, it was probably The Economist. Anyways, whatever it was, it talked about awareness in plants. And, I mean, this is a topic that comes up in a few different ways. But, like, one of the horrifying, like, ideas that was... Okay, I'm slightly curious about... Oh. Ah, okay, cool. I see what that's doing. Like, one of the ones that really gave me pause was this idea that plants apparently are aware of being eaten. And there was a note made about it, which was, but it is not true that plants feel pain. So, like, the idea here is that this sort of frees us of moral consideration on the idea of eating plants. And the idea here is that pain is not useful for a plant. So, and this I kind of understand. Like, you know, if you put your hand on something hot, you know, the pain is very useful. You pull your hand away. And I've heard. I think it was paralysis. It was just kind of those. I'm sure people have seen this before, but, like, you know, you'll have assemblies and you meet a particular figure, and in this case, this was somebody who was bound to a wheelchair. I believe they were paralyzed, and they commented that, like, one of the really tricky things would be such as if they drop a knife, because it is entirely possible for them to do that. And, like, the way, remembering the story now, like, I have to imagine this is something that actually happened, is that, you know, they'll drop the knife, they don't think of it, and then they bring up their hand and there's blood, and they've clearly cut themselves, probably, I'm assuming quite badly in that case, but because there isn't that feeling, there's the you know, that is a practical difficulty. And of course, that is another way. I think I can understand the usefulness of pain in terms of protecting yourself from damage, but that sort of helped crystallize the idea in a way that I hadn't really thought of before. And then you compare that to a plant, which, you know, even the ones that grow fast, they certainly don't have a capability of moving away from danger, at least in the sense of being eaten. So, you know, the idea of being aware of being eaten is the start of, like, a horror story, basically. But that's applying a human thought to this idea, and those generally involve our understanding of pain. So what does... Oh, you know what? Now that I think of it, there's also a House episode of like a little girl that doesn't feel pain. I don't remember anything of it, though. But yeah, anyway, it's sorry, this just made me think of it for these servitors. But anyways, I'll stop rambling. I'm also possibly gonna have to take a break in a little bit, but all right. All present held their breath, disturbed by this sight. We waited for the Lord Captain to speak. His Lordship Constantinos von Valancius took several steps towards the servitors. Immediately, the servitors, each and every one of them, stepped towards the Lord Captain in perfect unison. They mimicked his movements with frightening precision. The rogue trader halted in place, and after a moment's thought, waved his hand, and the servitors, just as synchronously, repeated that gesture as well. When the Lord Captain turned quizzically to the technomats, so did the servitors, as if mocking him. Whatever the Lord Captain did, be it an incline of the head, a wave of the hand, or a step to the side, the defective units repeated it without a moment's delay or hesitation, like grotesque marionettes controlled by an unseen puppeteer. We observed this mime unfold in distressed bafflement for nearly a minute until the servitors finally came to a stop. Not sensing any threat from them, the rogue trader approached with confidence. The Lord Captain examined the servitors. As High Factorum, it was I who had prompted that entire inspection, and thus it was my duty to follow the Lord Captain. As we stepped closer, we noticed a fascinating irregularity. The servitors' pupils, normally still, were shaking wildly. Their bulging veins were pulsating under their copper collars, inscribed with their past offenses. It was as if those mindless half-machines were locked in a perpetual state of extreme tension. A visibly shaken technomat behind us proposed that the human souls had awakened within the servitor's body after a long slumber deep within their lobotomized brains. Formerly bereft of intelligence, they had attained awareness, feeling, and understanding. After a pause, the technomat added that the servitors used to function properly, and that no one had been able to explain the change in their behavior. His gaze still trained on the motionless but animate half-machines and half-people, the Lord Captain stepped away from the servitors. He turned to announce his decision. His lordship looked at me with unwavering resolve, and it was that confidence that wrenched me out of the nightmarish stupor that had me tensely observing the scene unfolding before me. The Lord Captain gave the order. So we have a few options here. So, Iconoclast to dispose of the servitors so that their human souls may be released from torment. Dogmatic to send the servitors back to toil as they had toiled before, for they had not yet paid their dues for their crimes of their past lives and thus did not deserve clemency. To destroy the servers, for what was happening to them could spell horrific heresy, or to leave the servitors to their work, for there was nothing in their behavior the Lord Captain found alarming. Send the servitors back to toil as they had toiled before, for they had not yet paid their dues for the crimes of their past lives and thus did not deserve clemency. On the Lord Captain's orders, the servitors were returned to the same decks where they had worked before. The crew was initially unnerved by their presence, but adapted to their quirks soon enough, especially since, following the incident in question, there was a noticeable reduction in the servitors' strange behavior. With the fate of the defective servitors decided, nothing could now distract the Lord Captain from his mission. Have you ever heard of the name Fiery Reckoning? From what I can tell, it is a void ship of some sort. There was a mention of it in one of Theodora's documents I found. Janris thinks for a moment, pursing his lips in concentration. I'm afraid it is not immediately familiar to me, your lordship. Please allow me a moment. He starts rapidly tapping on the screen of his data slate. I say, House von Valancius did indeed sign a contract with the owners of a vessel with that designation, with the designation Fiery Reckoning. There are transactions, records of the ship picking up cargo from Kiava Gamma. Well, this is odd. The data log ends there. Apparently, the ship had some interactions with one of the workshops on your industrial world. I beg your pardon, your lordship, but that is the extent of the assistance I can provide you in regard to this particular matter. Have you made a confession lately? Your lordship, you are truly masterful at springing unexpected questions on the man. However, I must admit I don't quite understand this one. The orphans on this ship have already been provided with the bare essentials, have they not? The factotum fidgets nervously with the rings on his fingers until he musters the courage to reply. I will not pry into how your lordship found out about my confession. I supposed it raised some questions for you. You have a good heart, it seems. I am surprised. As am I, to tell the truth. Sensitivity is a vice in one responsible for ensuring the dynasty's prosperity. However, I cannot help it, which is why I unburden my soul in confession. I am willing to allocate extra resources to provide for the orphans. I marvel at your generosity. Will there be any specific instructions, your lordship? So make sure the things they get will bring them little moments of joy, sweet toys, they deserve it, nothing extravagant, no spoiling the children. I trust you with this matter. Spend as much as you deem necessary. The factorum's eyes glisten sentimentally. The children will know that you are their benefactor. As for me, I can assure you that I will always find ways to procure enough funds to cover the expenses. I would like to order the shipping and transportation of some goods. Cool. Okay, so heretic trophies and Xeno artifacts compared to... Okay. So the heretic trophies seem to go for everyone, whereas the Xeno artifacts... Not so jewelry, I don't think we have. Armor kits. Well, actually, I should see melee weaponry, so that's worth 100. Compared to... Okay, that's not useful. That doesn't get me anything, so... Fuel's worth 100. I do kind of wish I had a better way of... I mean, I should probably just, like, write these down, but... So fuel seems to be a good generic. Ship components is worth 200 compared to... So both of those are worth 200. Yeah, that's not quite what I'm looking for, though. Like, what I'm looking for is, like, building a list. So, like... When I see here, I've got heretic trophies and Xeno artifacts, right? So those are worth 500. The fact that heretic trophies are worth 500 for both tells me that maybe I want to hang on to those because it's very valuable and it's available for both. But if I see Xeno artifacts and then I compare that to explorators, right? There's our holy gifts and heretic trophies. So that tells me it's like, okay, so probably I want to prioritize holy gifts first because that's the one that's available to me. And then once I've done all of that, I'll trade it, or I'll consider it for the other group. And I kind of understand, like, the red will be an indicator, but there's going to be more than two eventually. So. Okay. I do need to take a break at some point, but I do also want to finish off the chapel. I guess I never did go back to the person who gave me the quest. The indispensable astropaths are instrumental in establishing communication between worlds and ships on the scale of the entire immense galaxy. Continually exposed to the Immaterium's terrors, many of these psychers perish, go insane, or even meet a fate worse than death. Yeah, see, the
won't
problem is
tolerate
that
weakness.
that falls into my bad habit of like hoarding too much. So where I can, I do actually want to try and unburden myself of some of the material. Your lordship, the astropath smiles at you, the shy, awkward smile of someone unused to smiling. Sacred mechanism is working again with no disruptions. With a trembling hand, the psyker hands you a strip of paper with smooth rows of etched characters, this time containing no errors. The Engisir rises proudly to his feet and says in low Gothic, a language he clearly has not had much practice in, "With sacred words and virtuous thoughts turned towards the machine god, I have been able to pacify this mechanism's wayward spirits. The Omnissiah blesses." How lucky are we that the venerable tech priest is so pious and wise? This statement is true. I recommend installing 2 incense-burning units in the compartment to prevent the spirit's continued anger. The unit Zachary Wise will be provided with a list of minor recommendations, 142 in total, for improvement to this compartment's maintenance. Failure to implement will result in sanctions on the part of the Adeptus Mechanicus priesthood. Sacred machine is replaced. Choirmaster Weiss will be able to deliver the previously indecipherable messages. Okay. Yeah, well, this is the thing for me. Like, I frequently have wound up just having a pile of consumables for the last fight, and I still don't even use them in the last fight because I've already, like, I've just gotten so used to not using them. So when I start a RPG, what I try to do is, you know, I'm not going to like spend everything to 0, but where I can, I do try to interact with the options that they put in front of me. And that's largely because I don't get to know what I'm missing out on. And then, of course, once I've sort of broken the seal on that, it's a little less painful for me to give up the goods. But, you know, the problem is that you find out, oh, I actually want to get in really good with this faction, and it turns out that there aren't enough goods to be able to make every faction super happy with you. And so if that's the case, then, you know, you feel kind of crummy because the game didn't tell you that, yes, you are actually going to need to make some hard choices. Your lordship, I have something for you. The choirmaster hands you a sheet of paper with uniform lines of machine type etched into it. Thanks to your assistance in repairing the compiler, we have been able to interpret a most curious message. It contains a call sign that agents of the renegade Voitvir used in their especially important reports. Could it be a message from Voitvir? He was most likely the intended recipient. When was the signal sent? I cannot say with certainty, your lordship. Following the repair work, I went through the texts that had defied decoding before. This signal had lost its way in the bowels of the mechanism. It could be a week old or years. What does the message say? Only a few words. Lilamid? Odenthus the 11th. The winds have ceased. It is done. Now, Lilamid is Voitvir's call sign for special reports, but the rest is a code we are unfamiliar with. Yeah, well, I'm unfamiliar with the code name, so. That said, we know where to look for the truth. It is the Odenathus 11 system. I will get to the bottom of that message. I have no doubt of that, your lordship. We will speak later, choirmaster. I have business to attend to. Goodbye, your lordship. So I know we've spent sort of our first hour, I guess hour and a half, exploring the ship. We did at least get some quests done on that, so I don't feel too upset with how it went. But I do want to check out some of the other opportunities. I am feeling a little fuzzy, though. I think that was clear from a couple of my. I think it was clear from a couple of my my sort of 404 not found moments while chatting. So I'm going to. This one's going to be a tough one for me. So I am going to take a bit of a break. I don't want it to be an overly long one, but I do just want to clear out a couple of things that queued up in terms of messages and such that I'd like to. I'd like to take care of. So I'm going to try and sort of hustle, but I expect that this may be a bit of a longer break than I normally do, or maybe that is the new normal or whatever. But with that in mind, if you want to get up, have a stretch, get something to drink, now would not be a bad time to do that, because I'm going to be away from the keyboard for a little bit. But again, I'm not gonna luxuriate on it. I'm just gonna try and lock off a couple things so they don't distract me from the stream, and then we should be back for a full run through the rest of the content that we can get through. So I hope you all have a good break. For those of you still sitting around, please enjoy some advertisements for excellent products and services, and we will see you in a few minutes. Okay, thank you everybody for your patience. Again, it's I've talked about this earlier, but it's not a bad time to mention again. I've been on the fence about whether or not this is one I want to continue doing live persistently. I don't necessarily mind quiet streams, but they are a hard one for me to gauge the overall interest in. And so if I'm having doubts and there's a quietness, that does sometimes incline me to move towards something else. So I figure I don't want to like constantly announce it, but I also kind of wanted to let people know at various stages throughout the broadcast that if this is the sort of thing you'd like to see more of, definitely let me know, because it's one of the ones that I feel could really benefit from an advocate. And on the other hand, if there isn't someone who feels strongly either way, that can usually be an indicator that maybe I should be spending my time on something else. I'm still slightly inclined towards playing this on Friday, but I think if I get another, if it's another kind of quiet stream, and like this is the thing, what I'm doing here is I'm giving people who like to kind of kick back and just hang out for a bit. If they're enjoying sort of the organs in the background and the the grimdark, I don't mind keeping on in that sense. But of course, the reason I like doing these sort of hey, just let me know call outs is that I don't want to assume what people are interested in or not interested in. I'm actually often have been a very bad judge of that, and so where I can, it's just nice to give people the the opportunity to express that preference where they can. Sorry, I've got a little funniness going on in the other menu there. But yeah, I'm thinking just because I think people may benefit from the idea of trade-offs. I'm thinking Zephon on Mondays, and I am slightly inclined towards a CRPG, but it might not be a bad idea for me to do Zephon and then maybe some Uncle Chop's Rocket Shop while I'm sort of in a transition. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where it all goes. All right. So let's just take a quick minute here. So our options, we've got hang on, compiler. Okay, so this is a new destination, Gleam of the Final Dawn. So these are interesting, but what I really want to try and find would be the most important locations. So while Pascal would like to... Oh, hang on. I escorted Pascal to the governor. Why am I not... Adira... Oh, okay, never mind. We'll never find out about Adira Tlass.
Victory awaits.
The thing is, we already did talk to the governor, so I don't see why... Just gonna quickly talk to every individual. Well, we definitely already did this one. Okay. That's fine. We'll, So I think the prison is where I want to go now. Actually, yeah, the annoying one for me is I can't remember if it was Majoris or... Okay, so unidentified. According to satellites, one of the unidentified void ships circling the nearby star has landed on a large uninhabited world in the system. Yeah, we've done this. Talked to the astropath, who reported the malfunction. Am I completely losing it? Did I not just do that?
None shall stand in my way.
I know we're doing some backtracking here, but... Oh, well, not here. Okay. Okay, that is what the checks mean. So these are things we've done. Okay, fair enough. Sorry. So investigate the Adeptus Mechanicus. So this one's lower priority. This one's a lower priority. Definitely lower priority. And I had the impression that there was something bad happening on Rykad Minoris. I think that was the prison planet. I remember in the... I remember in one of the quests, I was like, okay, I'm definitely going there because it sounds like, you know, we want to address whatever baddies we find. I'm slightly worried that I need to do the High Factorum stuff again. Okay, no, we're fine. Lord Captain, reporting. The heralds of the Navis Nobilite continue to maintain Vox silent. No, that's not the one I wanted. Perhaps due to Urak 5 being off limits to visitors. We intercepted signals from the beacons drifting in the station's orbit. The demands are clear. We are told to turn the ship around immediately. You know what? Sorry to do this, but... I want to try and be a little more intentional with my movements. Okay, so new blood. Remedied on Rykad Minoris. Which... Isn't that the one I just went to? Good God. Okay. So it would seem to me new blood isn't an option here. So before I do anything else... Unidentified void ship. Augurs notice a large object among the lifeless rocks covering the planet, a void ship whose signature and origin are impossible to identify from orbit is resting on the edge of a deep ravine. The hull of the unidentified vessel is severely damaged, rocks around it shattered by the force of the gigantic machine's crash landing. The Augurs haven't detected any vital signs aboard or near the vessel. Send a squad to the planet to explore the void ship. Lore Xenos test succeeded. The landing party reports via Vox as soon as they touch down. The colossal void ship before them is covered with spikes. It resembles a morbid beast sculpted from darkness itself, menacingly hanging over the ravine. An experienced veteran accurately determines the origin of the unholy vessel. It belongs to the Xenos race called Drukhari. Ready to collapse at any moment, the void ship emits a long, woeful creak, as if promising to drag along into the abyss below anyone who dares to disturb its slumber. So Abelard suggests finding out what Xenos were doing in the Rycad system. Taking heed of the Seneschal's recommendations, the rogue trader orders to send more people to the planet. Anxious, Adira tells the Lord Captain that voices in her head are screaming, repeating words Harbinger, Darkness, and Death. Not wanting to tempt destiny, the rogue trader decides to recall people from the vessel. Argenta eagerly says that the only good Xenos is a dead one. The true servant of the Emperor shouldn't soil their hands with Xenos technology. The rogue trader orders that more people be sent to the Xenos void ship to collect any valuable findings. And being the God Emperor's chosen, the rogue trader won't go digging around Xenos trash. The artifacts of the enemies of humanity should be wiped from the Coronis expanse. I will go with Abelard's suggestions. After 2 watches of hard labor, the workers managed to stabilize the Drukhari void ship. The soldiers who entered the vessel were met with the lifeless bodies of Xenos who had died when the void ship crashed. The void ship itself, following its abominable nature, came to life, immediately craving to sate its wicked appetite for human death. The vessel's systems have reacted to the intruders, and senselessly cruel, deadly traps have been activated on all decks. Monstrous contraptions designed to mince, rip apart, and incinerate victims took the soldiers by surprise, but were neutralized before the squad suffered significant losses. The soldiers found several curious pieces of xenotech on the sinister void ship, but no data that could shed some light on why it came to the Rykad system. We gained an assortment of Drukhari barbed needles, Drukhari shatter shard, venom blade, blast pistol, monofilament grenade, and 7 experience. Serves me right for being curious. Rykadiphilia, the prison planetoid. Should probably take a minute here to go through the inventory, so that can go to cargo for now. Soul siphon, you say? Tempting. Can't see the benefit of the modified bolter. I'll hang on to the sniper rifle. I don't really have much use for it right now, but I won't rule it out. Okay, don't see a need here. Maybe just double check. Yeah, so that goes to cargo. That's Seneschal's. If we find a user for the sniper, we'll do it. I'm not a psyker, so it doesn't matter. Do you know anybody without a cape yet? Increases melee attack damage against demon enemies. I mean, it doesn't hurt. I think I'll live with that for now.
Follow my lead.
I guess the question I have here is that it's one thing for me to visit the prison planet, but there isn't actually really a need for me to be here right now.
Something of interest.
But not on the screen, apparently. Oh, here it is. Come in, escort. This is Captain Vicari. Escort, please come in. The pale young woman looks at you with a mixture of hope and disbelief swirling in her eyes. You notice her hands trembling as she clutches her weapon. Who are you? Did you come from the planet? Are you reinforcements? Saint's teeth, I thought you'd never come. I'm Rogue Trader Konstantinos von Valancius. Now introduce yourself. At once, the woman stands at attention. Captain Raquel Vicari, servant of House Winterscale and pilot of this shuttle. It is an honor to be greeting his lordship von Valancius. Tell me about this planetoid. The only settlement on Ricadi Filia is a penal colony. The prisoners work in the mines and the domed quarries. They mine sulfur, ceram dust, and sand, which is melted down. A rather nondescript place, or so it was prior to current events. What happened here? There's been a prison riot on the planetoid. Sadly, it is being led by the prison warden himself, the Honorable Anethgon Casteglia. He has allied himself with a rabble that he himself was supposed to watch and declared Ricadi Filia to be independent of the authority of the system's lawful governor. I came here as a shuttle pilot along the Honorable Yvain Winterscale, son of Caligos Winterscale, rogue trader, vanquisher of Xenos, forever triumphant over the enemies of humanity, she details, enunciating every word of her overlord's title. Young Lord Winterscale wished to speak to the warden personally, so he could put an end to this lawless treason. He and his escort went ahead, and she grows paler. I've been unable to contact him over Vox for a very long time now. You are late to arrive on Ricadi Filia. The warden himself is spearheading the riot? Yes, she bites her lip. No one expected this. Master Castigalia is a nobleman from a respected governor house and a vassal to House Winterscale. All of a sudden, he proclaimed that Ricadi Filia was now his personal domain, and that the prisoners were his subjects, and that he would never bow to anyone again. It's pure heresy. And I take it that they're looking forward to a diet of sand and gravel? What kind of madman would start a revolt on a barren rock? Why would young Winterscale have felt the need to parley with the dissidents? She sighs quietly. It's a personal matter. Master Castigalia, the seditious warden, is Lord Yvain's childhood friend. When my lord heard of the riot, the news saddened him greatly, and so he rushed here without delay, in hopes of bringing his old friend to his senses, no doubt. The first Winterscale in my memory who prefers to talk rather than shoot and slash. She smiles faintly. Young Lord Winterscale is not his father's shadow. If he is determined to save his friend, he won't back down. I pray to the throne that he is alive and well. He's been gone for such a long time, and I don't really like this place. Is this prison riot connected to the planetary rebellion? It seems more likely that Warden Castigalia learned about the rebellion on Rykad Minoris and decided to use the situation to his advantage. I can't say for certain. Perhaps no one can. Governor Medine has always preferred to shoot rebels rather than inquire about their motives and connections. I'm looking for a man by the name of Henriks von Kalax. Is he here, perhaps? Unless it's one of the prisoners or guards, that seems unlikely. There are no shuttles in working order other than yours and mine. There's nothing anyone else could have used to reach this place. Is there anything else I should be apprised of before I set out? Some of the rebels have holed up in the barracks. I don't know how many, but given this is the only way to where the negotiations are taking place, I would expect heavy resistance. Please take caution, your lordship. Lord Winterscale's guards mind the entrance so that the rebels couldn't get to the shuttle. I have no more questions. You may excuse yourself, pilot. The woman freezes for a moment before asking hesitantly, Your lordship, if I may have a minute of your time, I wouldn't ever have dared to trouble you on a personal matter, but this situation... In any case, have you been to the capital of Rykad Minoris yet? I wanted to ask if you saw a man there, a communications officer by the name of Jaspar. You need not worry, Jaspar is alive. She lets out a long sigh. You can see the relief gleaming in her eyes. You can't imagine how much I needed to hear that. Thank you. She bows. You can tell by the desperation in her eyes that she is exhausted, frightened, and wishes to be off this planetoid as soon as possible.
I'll lay claim to the stars.
I'd better myself through my service.
Good work, Argenta. The guard post has been vacant for a long time. There is a layer of dust on every surface. Yeah, I know I needed to make a choice. And I do it again! Ah, we get to build the bridge on the other side. I'm assuming this will be a fight.
Cast your eye there. Crimson is a good color for battle attire. Enemies will perceive no weakness, not even if you are bleeding.
The remains of a meal, one far too lavish for even a hive world, let alone a prison colony. This is an interesting one, it looks like. Oh no, we do have a way around it.
My augmentations allow me to function effectively, even in the event of extensive blood loss. This is what should concern those who dare to stand against the servant of the Omnissiah in battle.
A long string of names extends beneath the heading, top quarry workers of the cycle. So I do want to get a bit closer to the edge here, just because I'm going to take Argenta to go solo.
Sets my path.
Now, of course, the hope here is we don't trigger the trap.
Nothing escapes my sight. Never doubt me. Let's proceed. The Emperor favors me today.
Scraps of typical prison food, repulsive to the senses. Prison Diary of Ati Shan, Part 1. Come on, I gotta be able to read this. Right, actually, hang on, let me just take a minute here and see. Okay, that's full. That's full. Alright, we've definitely read the full of that, so. Prison Diary of Ati Shan, Part 1. Crock shit, why me? Why? I missed my tithe payment 12 years ago. 12 years! The inspector's writ got lost somewhere in the bowels of the Planetary Administratum and was lying there the whole time. But they made sure to remember to tack on the fines every month. By the time they found the blasted paper and finally informed me, the total sum was so obscene it would take 3 generations of my descendants, if I had any, to pay it off. My fate was sealed. Trial, sentence, prison. All because some daft rotter who shoved my paper into the wrong box. To be fair, I think I got off pretty easily. My bed in the barracks is about as hard as that slab of rockcrete I've got at home. Working in the quarry isn't much tougher than my old job, and the rules, void take me, that old sod of, that governs Rykad Minoris is a bloody sadist by comparison. It's a strange old place. I haven't been beaten once yet. The guards bark orders all the time, but they never hit us. I've also got this kind of inner circle of special chosen prisoners. The optimatum, they call it. If you can get in, Emperor's my witness, you get an actual day off. They let you out of your cell and into the yard by the big barracks. And I tell you what, they let you rest there and feed you better than whatever swill they're giving us at the canteen. They told me it's to improve our motivation and all that, to foster a stronger desire to reform and become a worthy servant of the Imperium once more. But I know it for what it is, just a club for the Warden's favorites. The same story as everywhere else. Suck up to the people in power and you get some swanky perks. They say the whole thing is the Warden's idea. Funny man, our Warden. He looks more noble than nobility itself. Tall, groomed, teeth even, eyes burning, boots so polished you can see yourself when you move to lick him. But that nutter doesn't much want people licking his boots. He walks around looking like he's deep in thought, all right, with only a couple of guards at his side, and he sometimes, if you can believe it, talks to prisoners. "What's your name?" he asks them all quiet-like. "Why were you condemned? Do you feel remorse?" He never even yells at no one, never orders to have him flogged. Instead, he doles out rewards to the special ones. Keeps telling us things like how we should strive to make society believe in us again. Uh-huh. Whatever you say, Master Warden. Starting tomorrow, I'll be trying to join these optimates of yours. I'm stuck here till the day I die, and it means no return to society for me. With the Emperor's help, I might just join the ranks of the local elite. It's kind of interesting to see prison reform in this setting. But it also strikes me that, like, if you do have a proper reform movement like this and people are going back to harsh working conditions, like, that just seems to be a way to breed rebellion. Venerable Optimates, the best among us, the list is faded, but the names are barely legible.
Submit, and you'll die quickly.
You have been ambushed. The battle begins.
Death to the weak!
Scared yet?
I can work with that.
Time to slaughter someone.
This is a risky move, but I'm curious. Yeah, that's not where I wanted her to be.
Anything else? On it. What an unfortunate turn of fate.
Okay, so I do want Sister Argenta to be in a fairly aggressive position, but I still need her behind cover.
Faith without deeds is worthless.
I think I'm going to try run and gun on this one.
Doubtest for the one who can escape the Emperor's judgment.
I should have done
I'll do
Furious
it.
Recital first. That was my bad. So shooting through seems like the better of the two.
I will not.
took care of this one.
Good work, Abelard. All right, Konstantinos. Now, I don't need him in the front lines. I do want to try and contribute something to the fight. Actually, staying here might be the right call. You serve me.
Suits my purposes.
I'll do it. Strike is a prayer. As the Emperor commands, I act. In thy light I stand, and thy light I crave. I'll do it. Eradicate it. Faith without deeds is... I refuse.
And had I been thinking, I probably should have tried to get a shot on the... Well, wouldn't have worked anyway. So honestly, at this point, I think we can fairly... Okay, I mean, the chances... Oh, 4. Yeah, we'll work with what we got here.
As the tactical imperative dictates. The undesired functions
I'll take it.
successfully terminated.
Brace yourself, Abelard. Tried and tested tactics are the best ones. Victory is imminent.
Chaos guides me.
Should probably remember what grenadier means in this context. Okay, let's do analyze. And shout at him.
Anything else?
Okay, not enough to seal the deal, but... This is a tough call for me here, because in one sense I should... Yeah, that's not a great to hit. That one's fine.
As the Emperor commands, I act. None can escape the Emperor's judgment.
High momentum.
Okay, that pistol's not going to do anything. Oh, hang on.
Nothing I
Silly
can't
me. Oh, wow.
Will do. Farewell.
All right,
Did I
I've...
mention that my whispers tell you jokes?
Yeah.
Jokes that once said aloud make your eyes bleed and blood curdle.
I'm
All that
happy.
black comedy.
I'm happy for some reverse XCOM. Nicely put, Captain Zergey.
It's about time.
Yeah, I feel like I've been getting like preposterously lucky on some of these fights, but I am happy. I have played this on my own before, and I felt I actually did quite poorly in the combat. So I'm happy. I'm happy I'm not struggling in the same way. These cages have been placed in plain view of the beds. Inside are traces of blood and excrement.
The whispers told me how.
The grease-stained edges of the poster detach ever so slightly. It appears that it was frequently removed and rehung. No further detail other than
None
that,
shall
though.
stand in my way.
Bare beds made from metal sheets swing back and forth on rusted chains. Whoever is forced to sleep on them, it would not take much for them to fall. Prison Diary of Ati Shan, Part 2. I swear the Emperor hasn't forsaken me. Guess who just came down the shuttle gangway among the fresh batch of prisoners? Clencian throne-damned Willia, former administratum clerk. No, the clerk, the very same scum who lost the writ about the missing payment. He's the reason I'm in this hole. Don't know what they threw him in for, but I've never felt better in my life. He's not just behind the same bars as me, he's fresh meat, and I'm a venerable optimist respected by everyone in the colony. The warden just came up with a new improvement. From now on, anyone who underperforms, misbehaves, or causes trouble any other way is to be punished by the community, specifically by the local best and brightest. Yours truly, the Optimates. The last two sods who failed to meet the quota were stripped naked, whipped, and thrown into cages in the big barracks. That's where they have to eat, sleep, and shit. Now with everyone watching. I thought to myself then, that isn't right. They've taken these punishments too far. But now, just you wait, you piece of grok shit. I'll get you for something. Those cages are calling your name. First time I did this area, Idira exploded and summoned demons on the first warp power I used with her. So that was a particularly rage-inducing encounter for me to get off so light. Okay, we've already put the stub revolver elsewhere. Okay, can't see the benefit for the chainmail either. But I can hang on to the force grenade. The beds here are bolted to the floor. Some have thin, torn bed sheets and even tattered pillows. Although I should probably mention, too, that for myself, I'm just playing on the standard difficulty, so I imagine that probably has...
Idira, is there something you wish to tell me about? Namely, the mess in the wardroom last week.
Ugh, stop blaming me every time one of the officers flies off the handle, old man. Not every brawl or disaster on this ship is because of me.
The premonition runs true.
The symbol before you bears a familiar scent, that of the dark forces of chaos. The chopped up slabs of flesh have been thoroughly washed of any blood. Okay, prison guard key. Severed human body parts. It's funny, I'll play, like, Outlast Trials without thinking, but when I sort of see this stuff, it's like, oh, this is, like, really unpleasant. Judging by the number of horrid morsels, dozens of victims were slain here.
I'll lay claim to the stars.
Anyways, I'm starting to think that this warden may not be such a good guy after all. Just a feeling.
My success is an irrefutable certainty.
My brethren, the dawn is nigh. The Optimates will guide us into a new existence. Yes, yes, dear brethren, have a taste of my steel. Oh, I've longed for this, my dear brethren. Thank the throne, normal-looking faces. We thought we were going to die here with these nutters. The old man, with a gap-toothed smile, drops his weapon and holds out his hands in a placating gesture. Please don't shoot us, your nobleness. Let us speak a word. Well, this is a welcome change. Talking before shooting. Still, Lord Captain, the look of this ragtag bunch hardly inspires trust. Give me a reason not to execute you on the spot. Here's a deal. We're honest, quiet inmates. We didn't want to riot, but, well, sitting it out wasn't really an option either. The warden's lapdogs made short work of those who refused to join in the festivities, so we had to, play along. But that's all it was, play. We meant no offense to Governor Mednay or to the lawful authority of House Winterscale. Give us a chance, eh? We just want to wait till everything blows over and we can go back to our cells and quietly do the rest of our time. Pasquale inquires demurely. Does the fact that this serf presently confined and therefore has... Does the fact that this serf is presently confined and therefore has previously betrayed the trust of the Imperium servants need to be vocalized? Or is it evident to the lay persons uninitiated in the sacred mysteries of logic? A repentant, honest heretic. How novel. Judging by Abelard's tone, the Seneschal is utterly unimpressed by the old man's ingratiating monologue. Tell me more about the warden and the riot. Well, why soil your tongue talking about that, heretic? But if you insist, let's hear it how it is. The warden of this here prison, the Honorable Master Castigalia, was a crackpot from the start. Previous warden ran things the proper way. Prayer, 1 meal a day, work, a punch in the chompers from the guards, work again. But the new one, do you know what his first degree was? He introduced lunches and dinners. By the 9 devils, that's 3 meals a day. The man was obviously stark raving mad. Things only went downhill from there. The guards quit it with the teeth punching. The warden forbade them. Instead, the overseers started counting which prisoners were digging up more things than in the quarry or swinging their pickaxes harder or whatnot. And then, would you believe it, they put together a list of the best workers. And if someone on that list also showed good behavior, that's when they'd get promoted to an optimate. That's the upper crust among us jailbirds. Or that's how it was at first. Then the warden decided it's the optimates, not the guards, who should be in charge of punishments. And that it wasn't the overseer's job to watch the prisoners work. It was the optimates. Well, let me tell you, that's when these goody two-shoes really started to shine. The guards aren't even in the same league as our dear fellows, the optimates. In the old days, we had maybe 5 or 10 stiffs kicking it a week. And now we were lucky if it was only 50. And that wasn't even the end of it. Warden Castigalia moved out of his chambers to live right in the quarry, under the dome. And I think something in his new home really scrambled his brain. He began spouting the wildest things like, the Optimates are saints, who will behold the truth. And he started talking to them, taking them to the quarry. Not all of them returned. The ones who did, you wouldn't recognize them. More beast than man. They were butchering people left and right, even guards and overseers. The warden himself had armed them. And that's the whole sob story. But I knew it from the moment he let us have dinners. Oh, this won't end well. Dinners are the first step on the path to heresy. Idira nods knowingly. The old codger's right. Whenever nobles start giving handouts to commoners, it's always something goes wrong. She notices your look and catches herself. I mean, with all due respect, your lordship. No offense intended. If I spare you, what do I gain from it? Now, how can lowly jailbirds hope to thank your noble self? I have an inkling. You see, us here, we're... How should I put this? Different from the rest of the prisoners in this place. They're all petty thieves from Rykad Minoris, debtors, gutter snipes. They're no one serious. Now we, your nobleness, are cut from different cloth altogether. We're fortune seekers from the void. Why don't we tell you where on Footfall Station, you know Footfall, the only shipyard and the best market in the Coronis Expanse. Yes, so where on Footfall you can find some very serious business-minded people, and how you can get yourself a very special discount from them on some very special goods. What kind of very serious people? The most serious kind, your nobleness. Have you heard about the Fellowship of the Void? It's the largest pirate alliance in the Expanse. There is no leader, of course, but there are some terribly serious captains who decided that cutting each other's throats over loot was... how do you call it? Counterproductive. But cutting throats together, now that's anti-counterproductive. And, well, their joint efforts leave them with an excess of spoils, so they need to dispose of it somehow. And I, your nobleness, just happen to know someone who handles such kinds of dealings on behalf of those very serious people. You're pirates. I came across a void ship belonging to your associates. They were planning to break you out. The man grunts, huffs, and then makes up his mind. Well, now that's out of the bag. Our fellows were supposed to come and get us a long time ago, but they got tied up somewhere. Void Kraken's gullet with them. And in all this time we had to wait, this happened. Pardon me for trying to pull the synth wool over you. It's just that we want nothing to do with this whole warden nonsense. So what now? Will you let us go? Adira cracks her neck. Sure, no problem. Today you tell us a little lie. Tomorrow you stick a torpedo in the side of that ship of yours. If it doesn't fall apart the moment the helmsman sneezes in their general direction. Very well, I shall spare you. Oh, that's so great to hear your nobleness. Just great. Now that's a true aristocrat. Not that warden creep. Now then, your nobleness. Where was I? If you're ever on Footfall Station, there's this district there, the Shadow Quarters. It's called that because it's located behind the statue of our holiest emperor. I've known folks who called it something else on account of it being behind the statue. Don't repeat their mistakes, I tell you. Reverend Hieronymus wasted no time in finding and burning them all. Forgive an old man for getting distracted. So, Footfall, the Shadow Quarters. There's a bar there, built into the remains of an old ship. And in that bar, in the back room, a certain Riza does her business. Tell her Grandpa Backval says hello. You'll be her favorite client in the blink of an eye. There we are. Well, your nobleness, well, I'll be going now, if you don't mind. Heretical, you may go. Iconoclast, I shall not leave you here to die in the hinds of the Warden's henchmen. Go tell my pilot that it is the Lord Captain's order that you be sent to my ship. You will join my ship's crew. You have my personal pardon as a rogue traitor. Or, dogmatic, you've changed my mind. By his name, I will not let heretical riffraff such as yourself leave this place alive. Nope. Put him to work. Thanks. We're most grateful, your nobleness. The old man glances at you somewhat skeptically, but then smiles and leaves. I didn't exactly want to go back on my word, but I didn't want to go heretical either. Clumps of dust, but no trace of weapons or gear. This storage has not been used in some time.
I won't tolerate weakness.
We can probably afford a demo.
Better myself through my service.
We should deal with this.
Let me just take a quick minute here and see if Adira benefits from the staff. I think I prefer the lightning for now.
Follow my lead.
Foe hammer. Stop. Foe hammer time. Lower armor penetration, though. Ooh, and shorter distance. So it's basically a shotgun. I'll just wait that out. Okay, so this is to main level.
Awaits.
I just want to see where this one goes. Okay, both to the main level.
The machine gun grants me insight.
I'm gonna guess this takes us, like, back into the same area, but a corpse in a uniform decorated with the winter scale coat of arms. The dead guard did not even have time to draw a weapon The attack must have come as a surprise. Well, he wasn't a very good guard then. Yeah, nothing special here. God, this is a weird angle. There we go. I will say, like I said, I'm a little on the fence about it as a streaming game, but I am quite enjoying this. The accretions on the outside of the structure indicate some regularly occurring natural phenomenon, probably poison gas emissions. Oh boy. Probably go through the door first.
A new challenge for me?
The way I normally like, I don't know if this is a...
Explorator is blessed with multifunctionality.
The evidence suggests that the victim was killed by poison gas. This glass-making furnace was used to melt the extracted sand into glass. I don't know if this is just a standard way that people play games, but I do... Like, in one sense, we're really lucky that we've got big games with big worlds and lots of things to do, but I also find it very paralyzing. And so what I kind of try and do is just break down levels into like their smallest components, just so I can sort of have that orderly path through surprise. But yeah, I try to just have like a systematic way of going through and like getting all the items and such. I told you, Evie. Why, they're hiding so much from us. Arrogant mentors, holy brothers and sisters. What have they ever given us? Nothing but a pile of fibs and useless admonitions. The voice of the man standing with his back to you sounds almost soft, heedless of everything but what is in front of him. He leans over a prisoner dressed in expensive clothing. But Aurora, she is different. She spoke with me like no one ever had before. She revealed the truth to me, and now I can reveal it to you if you just stop struggling for a minute. What? The man finally realizes he is not alone and turns to you. He is clutching a long, thin metallic rod with blood dripping off of it. We have guests? From the Von Valancius ship, I would wager. Evie, my dear, you will have to wait. Do not faint, I beg of you. It's important that you feel everything, including your other eye. How do you know who I am? Lies have many faces, but there is only one truth, and it has been laid bare before me. I knew the enemy of truth would come here sooner or later. You know, we had this guy once. He was a quiet one. One day he walked into the middle of a deck bar, threw one back, and then pulled out a gun and started shooting people left and right without saying a word. Then he shoved the barrel in his mouth and blew his brains out. Our warden here has exactly the same look in his eyes right now. Step away from the hostage at once. The warden sneers and glances at the maimed young man. Hostage? How rude. Young Winterscale is my guest and dearest friend. He came here himself to visit his old acquaintance and have a heartfelt talk, and I am merely showing him some appropriate hospitality to commemorate our reunion. As if echoing his words, Ivan lets out a weak moan. Abelard shakes his head somberly. That poor fool. I knew nothing good would come from his naive attempt at negotiating with heretics. However, Yvain appears to still be alive. If we make haste, we might yet save him. Having a sign of House Winterscale in your debt would certainly prove beneficial. Who is that on the table? My sincerest apologies. Where are my manners? Please allow me to introduce Ivan Winterscale, the younger son of Caligos Winterscale, in the flesh. You know, he was so close to witnessing the truth right before you interrupted our little chat. What madness have you brought into this prison? Do you want to know? He becomes more animated and runs a hand through his matted hair. You note it has been some time since he last trimmed his nails. This was my garden, where I tried to grow the seedlings of a beautiful future. That was before I realized that there is no future, not in the sense ordinary people understand. We are too attached to this life, to the limitations of our weak bodies, to the short-sightedness of our eyes that can scarcely see. It is all so insignificant. The true future lies beyond real space, and the only way to reach it is through a cleansing sacrifice. Do you understand? Why did you mutilate these people? These are my optimates, saints who will guide the flock at the fated hour. Listen. He pauses and smiles. Can you hear? You can't? They are crying out, calling. It's just that their cries are not meant for our ears. They cast their voices out there, beyond the edge of the glass, into the transparent quiet. There they are heard. There their call is answered. Rogue Trader, every moment spent talking to this heretic could be a moment spent destroying him and committing this place to purifying flames. Isn't it time we got started? Who is Aurora? Oh, so you've managed to barge in here and interfere with the prophetess's designs without even knowing who she is? It's too late now. Sorry, I gotta sneeze. You will never attain sight. All you can do now is accept your fate. He suddenly stirs like a predatory beast. I do not like it when people take the prophetess Aurora's name in vain. I desire your death, enemy of the truth. The warden raises his hand, and the maimed people start thrashing about in their death throes. The time for words is past. Optimates, give your power to this harbinger of Aurora. Let our foes see the truth, or become awash in blood.
Take a knee and bow before me.
The monsters demand your death.
Okay, so guard. We don't actually have too many people who are ranged. That guard's going to be a problem, though. Okay. I was just thinking how many people I could not have behind cover. I don't mind Idira being... I mean... It's not ideal, let's say, but... Let's see how this goes. Gah! I will say, I do really like the soundtrack for this. It definitely, it's big. Okay. I think best for me is to take out the ranged.
Doubt is for the weak. That is not the Emperor's will. Faith without deeds is worthless. I'll do it. Eradicate it.
Glorious.
As the Emperor commands, I act.
Let's make it quick.
It's a very different voice than I was expecting for the Warden. I was not expecting her to be in range for a melee attack. That's unfortunate. How on earth is he... Oh, right, because he's not... He's in melee. Okay. So this is inconvenient because Argenta kind of needs to be able to fire on people.
Suits my purposes.
You gotta hold the gun sideways, otherwise it doesn't work. Okay. We'll do voice of command on Pascal.
Nothing I can't do.
Crush the feeble.
Out of my way! I serve the ruinous powers! Ah!
Tough call. Am I willing to take the hit? I mean, it doesn't hit the warden, which is kind of the whole point for doing that. So...
Was that you? Or
All right, here we go. So I think we do just a good old-fashioned slash.
One fewer target.
You're joking. Ah, that's so frustrating.
I'd rather not. At your beck and call.
I should have done the brace for impact for everyone.
I will do my duty.
High momentum.
Okay, so fortunately the dash is gonna get me out of a tight spot here. Not clear to me that I'm gonna be able to reply with the bolt. Well, we got some possibilities here. Let's start with just a good old-fashioned bolter kill. Question is, do I want to do the firearm mastery here? Because I don't think I had that many good options for my characters. So I think we'll just pack it in for now. Okay, good for Idira. Pascal will be able to help out with the melee.
My vow is to serve. I venerate you, machine spirits.
Well, crap.
The spiritual prognosis is favorable. The Omniscient knows all, comprehends all.
An officer grants an ally an extra turn with full AP and MP. During this extra turn, there's no attack limit.
I am fear incarnate.
$43, $58. Let's roll the dice on this one. Oh, that's beautiful.
This is unacceptable.
Didn't say there's no attack limit? Yeah, there we go.
Faith without deeds is worthless.
I really should have done more.
Suits my purposes. Opposing me was your biggest mistake.
I'll say so.
I'll pass. Nothing I can't do. Not a problem for me.
Doubt is for the weak.
All right. I mean, shouting at the bad guy seems like a good idea, but cleaning...
What an unfortunate turn of fate.
Yeah. The air temperature drops a few degrees. All right, so I think we just get to focus on the Warden now, but it looks like I need to also take out the Unholy Lens. So I don't mind bringing Abelard up for sort of a shield. It presumably can't cover that distance, so...
Victory is imminent. It will be done. At your beck and call.
High momentum.
Okay, that is not a great chance to hit.
As the Emperor commands, I act.
I have no idea. I'm
I
just...
refuse.
Yeah, doesn't look like it hit. All right, no point in wasting the firearm mastery on this.
I've suffered worse.
Okay, so clearly somebody's got to go deal with the Unholy Lens. I'm thinking...
Activating calculated fury algorithm.
Okay, that doesn't work. This will. I don't necessarily want to... I don't necessarily want to be, like, delivering the coup de grace until we get rid of the Unholy Lens. But I figure we can at least mess with his abilities. That's got to be a bug that one of these guys just stood up.
Already done.
All right, I'll take it.
Nothing I can't do.
He's probably just going to come back. Oh. All right, well, there's another lens.
That is not the Emperor's will.
Constantina's got to pack it in.
On it.
A little closer than I would want.
I will do my duty. It will be done.
I should have
At your beck and call.
said I don't like him very much. Stalwart defense.
Victory is imminent.
All right.
Faith without deeds is worthless.
Simplest methods are the best. Pascal, please dismantle
Advancing.
the evil beams.
Request approved.
Cool.
The scriptural prognosis is favorable.
Konstantinos, hold the gun sideways, please. I ask you for one thing. I think I'm going to give the extra turn to Adira here.
Will do. Farewell. My whispers crave entertainment.
Okay, so we didn't actually need to take those things out. I don't believe we've been properly introduced. Blood is bubbling on the young man's lips, and his voice is barely audible. But even now, it remains melodious and quite courteous. Vain Winterscale of Cronus, greatly pleased to make your acquaintance. I cannot be certain that you aren't infected by this corruption as your friend was. Accept your death! No. What have they done to you? The warden, my friend, I tried to convince him to stop the riot. Diplomacy failed. Speaking is a struggle, but he continues stubbornly. Father hates diplomacy, which is why I had to try. Conserve your strength. You are wounded and you need help. Wounded. I would have phrased it altogether differently. Tortured and maimed, perhaps. Have you ever had your eyes burned out? This was my first time. I cannot say I recommend the procedure. He is either trying to make light of the situation or growing delirious from the pain. I must take my leave. I will see to it that assistance is provided to you and that you are escorted from here. He nods, giving in to oblivion. The mutilated man does not stir. Bound in his shackles, the plaque near his head reads, Most Holy Prophet and Optimate Ati Shan. Your skin crawls as you approach this place. However, there does not appear to be anything of note. Okay, so as we continue down the officer path, we've got Air of Authority. Officer increases allies' resolve by +4 till the end of combat. If target is under the effective voice of command, they will start their next turn with +1 additional act. I mean, that seems pretty good. Yeah, let's do Air of Authority. Oh boy. So I'll say no to the others for now. Doing my part's potential. Let's do ready to serve. I'm willing to go for weapon skill at this point. Strength is kind of tempting, though. We don't really have a strong man on the team. Joint analysis into the operative's next turn. Their allies' attacks also remove exploits and deal 4 more damage. Precise attack. Intimidation. Too many choices. Enfeeble is tempting. I think I'm going to do Pyromancy for a start. All right, let's do Thriving in Peril. All right, Argent is really killing it on skill. Let's keep the perception up. The next target that attacks a target affected by an exploit that target's cover efficiency and block will be... Yeah, we'll do Perfect Shot. Calculated relations. Forge World characters can use persuasion, coercion, and commerce based on intelligence instead of fellowship. Tempting. Cool. I don't think we need the armored body glove, but I wanted to double check all the same. I do at some point need to go through my cargo and just see if there's any cool stuff that I think differently about when I look at it, but the accretions on the outside of the structure indicate some regularly occurring natural phenomenon, possibly poison gas. We did read that before. Oh yeah, I think the rest of this is just for show. Yeah, I don't know. It sort of feels like, looking at this area here, it does sort of feel like there should be more that I can go through. But I think if I click on any of this... I mean, it's kind of... It's nice... Oh, yeah. I think I see what they're doing here. I think the idea here is that some of this... So I was going to say, it's nice that they have a little bit more of the environment to sort of make you feel like you're in a place. But, like, when you add too much, it makes you feel like you're missing out on parts of the level. But I think the idea here is that this is also doubling up for that higher part. And I should, in theory, be able to look down. Now, whether or not that's helpful or not, I don't know. Like, again, presumably, there's nothing really for me to do. All right, that's fine.
It's about time.
The rebellion has been crushed. I have news of your lord. She anxiously pitches forward. Is Lord Winterscale alive? Is he all right? He is alive but badly wounded. Help my people get him to my ship. There are glimmers of panic in the pilot's gaze, but she quickly pulls herself together. It will be done immediately. Thank you for letting me know, your lordship. I have no more questions. You may excuse yourself, pilot.
None shall stand in my way.
So I'm taking this as I'm done. Yeah, Chosen Ones is finished. When in doubt, save. Points of interest detected, which I guess is not the same as needing to do a mission. Permission to report, Lord Captain. Members of a sacred cult operating aboard this ship have requested an audience. They wish to present gifts and introduce themselves to their new captain. What sacred cult? They call themselves the Bloodspun Web. The cult defends the flagship from both internal and external threats. Lady Theodora held them in high regard and looked favorably upon their activities. I am ready to receive them. I will commence preparations at once, Lord Captain. Grand strategists are rulers of the battlefield. They divide the combat zone into functional areas and make the best of them, providing not only strong positive effects to allies and negative effects to enemies, but also additional unique effects. I was kind of hoping to just wrap it up here, but let's see. What an entrance! Those on the deck watch in awe as the final figure moves gracefully into a ceremonial pose. Some of the officers whisper in excitement, while others murmur prayers to the God Emperor.
The Undying Emperor commanded us to spin a web of blood around his children, and we obeyed. We obey still.
I can fix her. They fall silent as a tall young woman steps forward. She moves towards you soundlessly, the dim light casting shadows across the mask which conceals her face. The masked cultists repeat the words in a mournful whisper. We obey still.
Domin von Valancius, death has whispered your name. We disown Domin Theodora. We renounce our oath to her.
The woman's slender finger has been fitted with a metal claw. She points it in your direction and gazes at you from behind her bone mask with the cold, grim eyes of an assassin. She pulls out a sinister curved blade, and similar weapons suddenly appear in the hands of her motionless companions.
And now we give the gift of our blood to you. It is the gift of death. Death has whispered your name. The followers of the tenets of the web swear fealty to their new overlord and offer proof of their devotion.
Their blades sing through the air and rivulets of crimson flow onto the deck. The young woman bows her head reverently as she hands you a heavy parcel. The others bow their heads as well. They seem unconcerned by the blood that trickles down their fingers.
We give you a blade, the silent verdict. The Undying One has chosen you to wield this instrument of death. We give you one of our own, Kibella. She will be your shield and shadow. And we give you the blood of these traitors. The tenets of the web will purify their souls.
You have heard many stories about death cults such as this one. These devoted holy assassins of the Imperium have turned death into a form of worship of the Emperor. They are exemplary slayers, invisible executioners, and the scourge of traitors, heretics, and fallen souls. Many righteous people honor them as votaries of the faith, while others see their fearsome rituals as frenzied spectacles touched by madness. Examine the cultists. The cultists are all voidborn. Their lithe, sinewy bodies are clad in light armor, which allows them to move with an acrobat's nimble grace and strike with an assassin's swift surety. Their red and black vestments are adorned with sharp spikes and ritual jewelry. Where time and training have worn their garments threadbare, you can make out patterns of bleeding lacerations. Examine the captives. The prisoners cower beneath the weight of your gaze. Blood drips down tear-stained faces of the captured officers, technomats, and workers. A word has been carved into each of their foreheads with meticulous precision. Traitor, heretic, apostate, renegade. The cuts have been diligently and regularly reopened to prevent healing.
These renegades committed treachery against their domin. Their lips once praised the name of Kunrad Voigtveer. But it is your name they will whisper as they cross over to the other side.
Interesting. So a death cult watches over my crew, they who honor the Emperor through killing, who devote their every deed to serving him. Sacred executioners.
The Domin has discerned our essence. This is a great honor for the blood-spun web. We have woven the bays of this ship together with the threads of our faith for many years. We keep the greatest relic, his tarot, through which he sends us his blessed revelations. We obey the whispers of the Undying One. This is our service to him. This is our service to you.
Emperor's Tarot, a deck of psychoactive cards bearing sacred and meaningful images. Tarot cards are used for divination and predicting the future. They are believed to be able to capture images sent by the Emperor himself. In the hands of a skilled psyker, the Emperor's Tarot can be a truly potent divination tool. It is rumored that the sacred tarot cards were created by the Emperor himself to warn his servants of coming dangers. Each deck of cards is unique. The number of cards and arcana varies depending on the region of the galaxy where the deck was created. Tarot reading is considered one of the few trustworthy forms of divination in the Imperium. What exactly does a cult like the Bloodspun Web do?
The tenets of the web teach us to read the threads of the future and understand the hearts of others. When a soul is filled with the poison of corruption, we know its time has come. We bring liberation. 3 strikes, 3 rebukes, 1 blade. This is how we serve the Undying One. This is how we serve you and your flagship. But there are others. The virtuous martyrs who contravene his design without realizing it. Those who have come too close to faltering or committing an apostasy, but have not erred yet. We present such souls to the Undying One.
You mentioned the tenets of the web. What are they?
Our laws and teachings, our philosophy and way of life, our art of combat and spiritual dogma. The tenets are the blood-spun web itself. Humanity owes its existence to the Undying Emperor's sacrifice. It is he who protects us from a darkness of terrors. Hence, each of us has a duty to serve him, and a duty to die for him. To act otherwise is to waste the life that has been given to us by the Undying One. to become a thief. We help others understand this. We help them to live and die righteously.
Instead of helping those who may soon stumble, you offer them death?
We follow his design. We claim those marked by his omens. We submit to his will. How could it be otherwise?
I disapprove of your practices, but I am not going to ban them for now.
We lament having incurred your anger, Domin. We hope that you may yet understand there is no fault in our service before him or before the crew of this vessel.
Tell me about yourself, Cabela. Are you the leader of the Bloodspud Web, or its herald, or a servant?
I am the second spinner of the Bloodspun Web. The honor of this title is bestowed only upon those who have ushered more souls than... It is shameful to speak of one's own deeds. I'm here to become your shadow, not to make boasts.
Why have you brought this rabble to the upper decks?
So you may offer the souls of these traitors as a gift to him. You have the authority to order their execution. Their blood will bind us together through him. For the God Emperor, the Undying One, is death itself. The Undying One is duty itself. Give the order, Domin. Let a spinner of the Bloodspun Web undergo the test of a sacred trial.
I'm actually having a little trouble parsing what I'm supposed to do here, so may I offer these souls, these traitors, as a gift to him. Cabela touches her sharp blade reverently to her lips. These captives tremble in fear at the sight of the weapon. You have the authority to order their execution. Their blood will bind us together through him for the God Emperor. I will judge the traitors myself.
Then, I will tell you of the treacherous blood that runs through their veins.
These wretched apostates were caught trying to sabotage the reactor. They are guilty of treason. I swear we are not... A woman in tattered protective suit pushes forward in protest, but her movement is halted by the thin cord wrapped around her neck. You notice that all the captives have been similarly restrained. The woman clutches her throat as a thin line of scarlet appears between her fingers. Theft of weapons, sabotage, and the deaths of the crew in Bay AL-82. Do you have proof of these charges, or are such claims the result of cultic revelations? There is doubt in the Infernus Master's gentle voice. With all due respect, it is difficult to discern the truth of these accusations without evidence. Divine visions and dark portents may be reason enough for you to shed blood, but not everyone here shares your perspective. Enough, Heinrich. The Lord Captain will decide the truth of these claims himself. What do the accused have to say in their defense? The cords around the prisoners' necks are loosened just enough to let them speak. Have mercy! We're just technical tunnel workers. We were told to block the ventilation shaft leading to the reactor room. Fume leakage, supposedly. We didn't know we were doing anything wrong. We were just following orders. As for why we were holding weapons, that was... well, you know. The woman scratches her cheek nervously. She's lying, an injured officer scowls angrily. They smeared blood on themselves and crawled out of the tunnel wailing, "Oh no, the ship's been attacked! There are enemies everywhere! Defend the bay!" We rushed off to investigate. They used cutters to break into the weapons storage at our guard station. They stole guns and headed straight for the reactor room. Bone and sinew revealed your hubris. You abandoned vigilance for the promise of glory. You did not give weapons to the traitors, but you left your post to seek a hero's path. Though you did not act with treasonous intent, you are complicit nonetheless. Wait, when she says she's lying... So, I mean, from this dialogue, it feels like the commoners are guilty, but I'm having trouble parsing this, because when it says she's lying, it could be referring to her. I will not punish you or your men. Continue your service and do not make any more mistakes. We will never forget your generosity, Lord Captain. We will repay your loyalty with our lives if need be. What should be done with the rest of the prisoners, Lord Captain? Get this traitorous rabble out of my sight and shoot them. Mercy, Lord Captain, mercy! The Lord Captain has spoken. Take them away. I could not honor you by ushering the souls of those traitors to the other side. This troubles me, for I wish to serve you as the sword serves its master. Will you make me your shield and shadow, Domin Constantinos? Your lordship, the spinners of the blood-spun web were watching, tracking, and killing von Valancius' enemies long before the warrant of trade passed to Lady Theodora. However, their blade has also been known to cut short the lives of highly upstanding persons. The Factorum swallows nervously, casting a fleeting glance at Cabela. But I certainly do not in any way condemn the deeds of a deeply esteemed cult. I'm sure they must have had good reason. The Master-at-Arms clears her throat. The cultists are the scourge of the seditious. They bring the unrighteous to ruin. The enforcers respect the blood-spun web, for we share a common goal, to bring his light and his harsh justice to the darkest depths of the ship. Scourge of the seditious or not, folk are afraid of them for a reason. A couple of watches ago, these spinners took a train driver to pieces for some kind of ritual. I don't know what old Malak did to earn that privilege, though. And who's going to feed his family now? Heinrich takes a drag on his IO stick, exhaling a thick smoke through clenched teeth. But that's a lower-decker problem. What matters is the blood-spun web serves you faithfully, Lord Captain. My predecessor's predecessor once delivered a sermon about how the spinners saved this vessel from the servants of the arch-enemy. The blood-spun web paid the price in blood, a river of scarlet that flooded the decks from bridge to bilge. They became the blood of the flagship, the pulse in its veins, and the beat of its heart. Their great sacrifice earned them the favor of House von Valancius. Confessor, tell me about the spinner's great sacrifice. The vessel was beset by famine and pestilence during a long warp jump. The flagship wandered uncharted paths in the immaterium for 20 cycles straight. Servants of the arch-enemy used the despairing hearts of the crew to infiltrate the ship, and death followed. The hungry became the hunted. The famished became a feast. The exhausted crew was too weak and emaciated to resist the invaders, but then the spinners emerged from the depths. They stood alone against hundreds of foes, yet did not falter. They did not sleep or rest as their blade-tip dance brought death. Though many spinners fell, the blood-spun web held strong until the flagship left the turmoil of the warp. I wish to hear what my retinue thinks. I have heard, though only at a distance, the prayers the spinners offer up to him. I have seen how their deeds fill the people's hearts with confidence in the inevitability of his wrath. The blood-spun web's loyalty to the Emperor is without question, as is their willingness to lay down their lives in the fight against the arch-enemy. Although Lady Theodora never granted the cult an audience or brought a spinner into her retinue, she respected the blood-spun web and approved of its mission. You will be my shadow, Cabela. Cabela's movements are slow, almost rhythmic, as she removes her ceremonial mask. The dark shadows of her eyes accentuate the deathly pallor of her skin, which is covered in ritual scars. Henceforth I am your shadow, Domin Constantinos von Valancius, an instrument of his death placed in your hand by the Undying One. For so it was ordained, and his tarot forspoke. The young woman bows her head once more. I also come bearing an invitation from the Vizier of the Bloodspun Web. He wishes you to know that the doors to the Undying One's temple are open to you. Are you suggesting the Lord Captain should go down into the depths of his flagship to search for this temple? With all due respect, the lower decks are for servants and crew. They are not a fitting place for his lordship. Forspoke? What do you mean? What tarot? The greatest, most sacred relic of the Bloodspun Web, the Emperor's Tarot. Only his chosen servants may earn the permission to rain blood upon the cards and perform a reading to see portents of the future, shadows of the past, or tangles of the present. However, the secrets of his tarot are not for the ears of lay people to hear. I cannot tell you more. Not here. Not now. Who is the Vizier? He is first among us. The Vizier has spun the web of faith for fivefold longer than I have lived. Blood of the flagship's blood, my mentor and teacher. Why is the Vizier not here to deliver the message himself? The first spinner is old. His abode is the temple beneath the flagship's freight line, and he has not left the lower decks in decades. Even a short journey could sunder the spirit from his ancient body. Where's your temple located? I am not permitted to say. If you wish to find the temple, you must walk the path of Saint Ariane, the matriarch spider. Hers was the thread that would become the blood-spun web. Her path began deep within the flagship, in the dark tunnels of the freight line, and that is where yours must begin as well. This journey will bring you closer to the thread of the web, closer to the Undying One, closer to understanding death. Now walk in the footsteps of the matriarch spider. Your journey will begin in darkness of the deepest tunnels. The Vizier waits you. The cultists retreat into the shadows as Kabbalah sheathes her ceremonial dagger. Your blade awaits direction, Domin Konstantinos. We will speak again when the time is right. The Rogue Trader's ship is a veritable city sailing through the void. The ship has numerous compartments that you can visit. Navigate these compartments using the map of the ship, which you can access from the main elevator on the bridge or from any compartment. Which I would be happy to do, but I think I'm going to leave it there. I'm definitely feeling quite sleepy. But I was happy I did this. Like I said, it's quite quiet when I stream this game, so I don't know if that's an indication that I should do something else, or yeah, I don't know. I think there's a few different ways to interpret it, but I would be interested in sort of knowing if people would like to see more of this, or if it's more just a question that like people are happy to see whatever, and it's yeah, the people who are here for the stream rather than a specific game. But let me just take a quick minute here. Let's see who's online. I think I'll, I can host W. Shandless. So W. Shandless is W. Shand or Will Shand's. It's sort of his, like, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure on the intent behind it, but it feels like it's his sort of second channel where he doesn't do sort of the strange and spooky games that nobody's really heard of. And I think that's one where he plays more mainstream games. Last one I saw him play, I actually hadn't heard of, but it turns out it was a very popular one, was Dispatch. Or maybe it was the last time I saw him play. I'm sure he did something different. But he is playing Ember Seeker. So I'm going to leave you in his capable hands. I am also going to collapse in a heap and get some sleep. So I'll be back Friday. I'm not opposed to doing this again, but I think if I don't hear anything different. Friday may be the last of the Rogue Trader streams for a bit, and I might switch to doing Zephon and Uncle Chop's Rocket Shop for a bit. Again, we'll see how it goes. But I do like playing this. I want to see what changing it up might look like. And again, if you want to see this game, if you like seeing this game from me, let me know. And that'll apply to the YouTube audience as well, because I realize this will be coming a few weeks after I will have made whatever decision. Not opposed to returning to the game if it's been a while since I played it. But if it works better as a... You know what? I got to stop talking. Enjoy, Shan.